Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Happy to have you. We're going to be getting into comic book stuff today, but actually we got a really fun show. I think we're going to be doing some really interesting look at some Valiant stuff. And I think next week I might do some trailing conversations, but next week we'll probably wrap up the main Valiant conversation. But I think this week's Valiant tidbit is maybe my favorite, what I consider the golden age anyway. But we'll
Mm.
get into that, and we have some other wacky, I mean, wacky comic book stories to cover today, and just a couple of sadness too. But you have to take the pain to gain. They tell me.
That's true. That's true. That's accurate.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know because I never know coming in. I always come in blind, so we will see.
Yeah. Don't you worry. You just come into the warm embrace of the bugbear. You're fine.
Oh Lord, that is the gayest thing you've ever said to me, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel proud. But but no, I got it, man.
Oh yeah.
Um, definitely, it's going to be fun today. I think for sure. Some very interesting stuff to get into. But nevertheless, did you have yourself a good day? Were you? It was Labor Day for you guys, right?
Yeah, I didn't do pretty much anything.
Really?
So yeah, yeah, good day. Well, because I was really sick, so I'm still trying to get over that all the way. Plus, it rained a bit, so I couldn't do yard work. Um, So yeah, I didn't do much, but tomorrow I already have a whole day planned for tomorrow, so I'll be good to go.
Oh, that's good. I had a typhoon.
Oh,
Hmm.
fun stuff.
Sure. Well, it was a bit far away, so it wasn't really that traumatic. We had some wind, of course, but and some rain, but nothing that big. But enough to get your attention that something was going on. My kids are much farther north from me, and they were probably more in the heart of it. But you know, they were
Mm,
inside of concrete buildings, so they should be fine. I haven't checked.
interesting. Well,
That was a
that's
that was a joke.
interesting. I figured.
God damn it! Oh, anyway, I just hit
Mm.
like and share. Hopefully, you guys do the same, so way people can know we're coming in. Because we definitely know people don't get notifications from us. That's for damn sure. We are
That's
not
yeah,
worthy.
absolutely doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I'm thinking what we might need to do, Chester, is since you're usually here, getting stuff ready before, like about an hour or so before the show, I
yeah.
see you in Discord, is just put up like a premiere waiting thing, or not a premiere, but a waiting thing for it for the live stream and see if maybe that'll help because I've noticed sometimes people don't show up till like an hour in, and I
Mhm.
think for some reason our notifications are like an hour kicked back. It's very weird. I
Oh.
don't know why, but it's it's YouTube. YouTube doesn't
So,
make sense ever.
right. Well, I mean, I could do that, I suppose, but that would involve that. Basically, I guess you just launch the stream and just mute everything. And I do have a starting a soon thing. I want to see it. I'm going to show it. Boom. Oh, look at
Let's
that. Look at that. I got
let's
one.
see this beauty.
I got one. Yeah. But the problem with that is every time I try to, and the reason why I don't mute the morons on the drone recorded. Yeah, I said it. Is because every time I mute, I have to go into the settings and reset everything. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
shuts everything off. It
Well, there's
doesn't.
some way to do it
There is
where you can like you're right, you can do that, and then there's another way to like schedule it. I don't know how you do it because 'cause I've never done
probably.
live.
Yeah,
And
I
it
don't
will just
know.
have the chat room and everything going, and it'll say, the stream's not scheduled to start till whenever the time is you set it for.
True, and we're not necessarily very professional,
Yeah.
because I've seen other people do things like, for instance, they'll have stuff in the chat. You can put like an exclamation point something, and it will take you directly to that link. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff with the
Yeah,
chats now. You can do where you can, it'll take you to links, you can sell things in the chat, you can do polls. I don't know how to do any of it either. I
yeah.
would assume somebody with moderator powers would normally be able to do that, but it doesn't give me the option when I click on the thing. So maybe you have to have a certain level of a channel or something. And YouTube can routinely keeps us from getting to that level. So
Right. Well, of course, and that's true. And we're getting up toward that thousand again. I imagine we'll have a massive purge and be back to 889 again. You know.
Yes, that seems to be the number. They've decided
Yeah.
where they like us.
Yeah. But it is what it is. But is it Discord has like that Nitro thing you can pay for? Maybe it's something like that they're using, or I don't know. Maybe it's inside YouTube itself where you have to buy
Oh, it could be
premium or
too
something like
itself.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
know.
doing that. I ain't doing it.
No,
I
I don't
ain't.
blame you. I
I'm
don't know how you do it, but I know all the big streamers do it, so there must be some way.
Yeah. No, those guys are professionals though. They're making money and they're trying to make money. Good on them. You know. You know what I saw? I Yesterday I watched a little short series of while I was working all that other stuff, but I kind of have something on while I'm working. But it was the restoration of a 1951 Caterpillar number six shovel.
Ooh.
Those big old heavy machinery things.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that guy was so lucky. It was sitting in a barn, and it's really just gorgeous condition. It had been sitting like 15, 20 years, right? No one had
Yeah.
touched it, but because it had been undercover and it was shut off, not broken, it was just not because Grandpa died. Anyway,
Aw. Not
but
grandpa.
you're not grandpa, and of course it's a actual working farm, and they had more modern equipment, so they just kind of left it over there, right? But even though it had been sitting that long, he was able to get it up and running pretty quickly, and it's in amazing shape. My God, dude, if you care about those kind of things, which I know you guys don't, but um, that is a find, dude. I mean, if I was talking about like a GTO or something like that, people would be like, "Ooh, right?" That would be more interesting. But a Caterpillar number six shovel, fuck that, right? I understand.
Oh, I think that's actually is interesting. I say it all the time, Chester. We right now, all of us are living in the ruins of an advanced civilization,
We are
and you don't need to look much further than at just old machines from decades ago.
yeah,
They just look better. They're better built.
better built,
They
way
run
better.
better.
Yeah.
They do everything pretty much better you could want a machine to do. They just don't have all the bells and whistles and all the automation that modern machines do.
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes to the actual functionary of the machine, they're typically far superior. And you can even see that in things like, I know yesterday is tinfoil talk, but it's kind of weird to me that no one has broken Earth orbit in like 50 years.
Some would say ever.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But it's very strange to me that they openly admit no one's ever done it since like 72 or whatever it was, something like that.
Well, yeah, but
To be 50 years.
the 75, I think.
Yeah.
But the more interesting thing is about a decade or so ago, they kind of quietly announced that the moon is actually within the Earth's atmosphere. Did you hear
Oh,
that? You remember that? Yeah.
oh,
So technically, humans have never actually left the atmosphere, supposedly, officially.
detail.
Detail, yeah, just little insignificant points. Yeah, no, it's definitely true, and that seems to be historically true. Because the further back in time you go, the better the technology, and that's weird. It shouldn't be like that.
It
It should
shouldn't.
be the opposite of that.
We're told that it is the opposite of that. That it's supposedly technology is getting better.
Hmm.
Now, there in some ways it's getting more powerful, like computers and things, at least from what we understand. But that doesn't necessarily mean better. And my cat is screaming if that's what you heard. I don't know what she's doing. Uh, it doesn't necessarily mean better just because it's more powerful. And I
Hmm.
think we see that, right? So like old machines, they run forever, they last forever. They're built to with better materials,
Oh yeah,
a lot of them built with real actual steel or iron
oh
instead of
yeah,
the nonsense composites they use nowadays.
good stuff. Yeah,
Uh, it, it's and then you just look around, like look at the architecture, right? Like just the Empire State Building for an example. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful building. The
it
the
is.
design, the architecture of that thing, and then compare that to the Twin Towers that got knocked down,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they were hideous.
Yeah, and
They were just
notice he
ugly.
said knocked down because if
Yeah.
that didn't get blown up, uh, big air quotes. If that didn't get blown up, they were going to have to tear it down anyway.
Yes.
You do realize because the thing was poorly made and it was in need of demolition, literally. That's another thing no one talks about, right? If it hadn't come down that way, it would have been down by now anyway. and would have
Yeah,
cost a lot of
right. They would
money.
have had to have literally replace it by now anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and it's, I mean, even just aesthetically, look at those. They're giant rectangles in the
Oh
sky,
no,
giant cubular rectangles.
the
Oh, that's
brutalism which has been going on for 100 years is ridiculous. Yes, it is, and they
yes,
do call it that way. I'm not being sarcastic. They actually call
yes.
it the brutalistic architecture. It's their word. Yeah.
Even comic books to some degree. I know a lot of people, maybe not modern comics, but 20 or 30 years ago, people really, really loved those books. I did. But I'll still take Golden Age and Silver Age. Just the energy in them was better. It had
Yeah.
a better, much more aspirational and hopeful energy to it than most comics nowadays
Hmm.
do.
And the art is
Um,
consistently better.
yes,
Mm,
and it's consistent.
yeah.
Like there's very little leeway and wiggle room in the art. You don't have like we had a few years ago in Marvel where you literally couldn't even make the faces out in these books because they were just so terribly drawn.
Right.
That just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen, and they had
No, there
way
was some
tighter
amazing stuff.
schedules.
Yeah.
Way
Especially
tighter schedules.
especially in like the mystery, the pulp noir, horror
Mhm.
genre. The art is just insane, dude. Insane level. How good it was. In some ways, the comic books didn't get the best artist, like Superman when he first came out. You go back and
Yep.
look at it; it's not great. It's not,
No.
because it was a new thing. It was a new idea that hadn't really been proven yet. But
Right. Well, and then speaking of Superman in another medium, the animation, those old Superman
oh my
reels
god,
is the best still the best animation ever done, I think.
yeah,
Honestly, like
that's
genuinely. It's
Fleischman. Is that what it is?
unbelievable.
Fleischman, I think it is.
I think that was his
Oh,
name.
yeah,
Yeah, that it's
just
unbelievable.
really, really good.
And
Yeah.
even with computers and all the power they have, they still haven't even been able to touch it. It's and then if you go back, you want to stick into art. Okay, go back even 100 years before that and look at the way people were making portraits and landscapes and things with photorealism, and they're
Yeah, no,
painting them by hand.
pretty impressive
Crazy
stuff.
stuff.
Well, and that's a separate conversation. I want to say hello to Roger and Ethereal Dragon. Ethereal Dragon seems to have some bad news he don't want to talk about on the stream. That sucks, dude.
It's no
Yeah.
bueno.
But one of the things with art, a big change came was with the development of lenses, like in the 13th, 14th century. And
Mhm.
we have a lot of the kind of equipment they used, and through various techniques, they were basically, uh, you know, they were basically tracing things. Tracing human bodies and objects, and then going in and coloring it on top. It's not,
Right.
and that's why there was such a radical shift from some really wonky looking shit to this,
Mhm.
Michelangelo. It was like, what?
Yes.
What? Out of nowhere. Well, it's because they were using technology.
Yep.
And we still have a lot of those tools they used. And it's interesting that a lot of people don't understand that that's what they were doing. So I would say modern artists are actually better than that period, because modern artists are actually doing it themselves. And I think it comes down to that zeitgeist type of thinking where once something is seen to be possible, all of a sudden everybody can do it. Have you noticed that?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a very interesting part of the human
Well,
psychology.
that's part of the problem though, right? Is everybody just iterates, which yeah, I get that's what everything is. It's just iterations until you get to what people think is an innovation, but really all you're doing is standing on the shoulders of other people that came before you.
Yeah.
But I don't think the gap is where it used to be. And what I mean by that is the iterations used to be bigger leaps than they are now. Everybody's just kind of doing these small little chiselings, just little like they got all hammer and just doing like Morse code. We don't have anybody out here doing big swaths anymore when it comes to just artistic styles and things. It honestly feels like we've kind of hit the wall.
Well, architecturally, that is for sure true.
Absolutely
Absolutely
architecturally.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is interesting because with the same thing with the art, because they were using technology. They weren't these amazing artists that were doing everything freehand. That's not what was happening. They were using technology, right?
Hmm.
But the people in coming into modern times, they don't know that, so they just see that humans capable of it, and therefore they do it. Same thing with, you mentioned chiseling, therefore making statues. You have people today who can actually take stone and make beautiful things out of it. But we know
Hmm.
now that's not what they were doing. They were not chiseling stone, they were casting. right?
Right.
So once again, it's the use of technology, but the perception was that it was artistically done, and therefore modern people have gone and pursued it and done it, which I find that aspect of the human mind to be very, very interesting. But
Mm.
a lot of things, like we were talking about architecture and how quality and stuff. For instance, how many Roman buildings still stand and are
Oh,
operated as government buildings usually? Or have been converted into Catholic temples and cathedrals and stuff like that. There's so many of them. And how old are those things? What? 2,000 years ago? What?
right.
Well, supposedly that's another air quote right there. But even at the best coast, if best case, if you're a conspiracy theorist, they're at least 1,000, 1,200 years old, right?
Right.
But either way, those buildings still stand no problem. And a lot of people don't understand because they see, oh, it looks like stone. It's not. It's all brick, and it's got just a plaster on top of it. But even the plaster lasts 2,000 fucking years, dude.
Right.
It's insane what they were doing. And those things still stand and operate just fine today. But yet we can't get a building to stand up for more than 100 years, barely.
Mm.
Even the Empire State Building it has this constant state of repair just to keep things standing, right?
Yep.
So I
Yeah,
don't
it's a
know.
problem.
It is.
And people, I know, like one of my good friends is a architecture nut. He was going to be an architect, but he got a
Mm,
family and just broke off to a different career path. Uh, but he studied it for years and everything.
yeah.
And he says all the time that one of the main reasons is money. And I say, well, yeah, you're
Sure.
right. There's
Sure.
people controlling the purse strings, but when they want the money to pay for something, somehow they find it. So I don't think the money, I think the money argument is their excuse so that they can just keep doing brutalist nonsense instead
Well,
of creating beauty.
and you got to understand the disparity between cost and and cost, as in for them, and what you pay has become incredibly disparate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane the difference, right? Like that's why you see some of these mansions that go for 300, 500 million dollars, right? Like what? What? You could build a
Right.
freaking mall for that, right?
Yep.
But why? Well, it's because of the materials they're using, and they overcharge. And keep in mind that the wealthy make things expensive just so you can't get involved. Like for instance, with airplanes, something I'm very interested in. I've always wanted to get a pilot's license. And I probably will before I die. I should do that sooner than later, though, shouldn't I? But nevertheless,
Probably.
probably, But the thing with owning a plane, now you can go buy an older, and planes are kept real well, so you can buy an old plane without a big deal, and you can get it for like 50 grand, 30 grand. You can find a plane for that, like a personal plane. But where they get you is on the maintenance, right? And the required maintenance is like a lot of planes will have anywhere between 1,500 and on the high end 2,500 hours you can operate that before the engine needs to be completely overhauled. So, and now if you went and you took your car down to the mechanic and said, "All right, I want a complete overhaul on this engine. I want you guys to place all the gaskets. I want you to look at everything. I want you to detail this sucker out. I want new every oil. I want it looking beautiful." How much do you think that would cost you?
Yeah. Probably a bit.
Yeah, but just throw a number at it.
For a new one or one of the ones you were talking about, like a refurb one.
Anything, any engine. You take your car down and you want the engine completely overhauled. How much do you think that would cost you?
Oh my god, it would cost quite a bit of money. Probably depending on the engine and depending obviously on the size of it. And if it's any kind of important engine, you're looking at a minimum $2,000 to $5,000, I'd
Right.
say.
That's what I would say, 2 to 5. You're probably on the high end. If there's a lot of work, you're looking at a good 1,500 in labor, maybe 2,000, and then parts and stuff like that. Would you like to guess how much it costs to have an airplane? Same thing, same exact thing done to an airplane engine. And keep in mind, airplane engines aren't particularly special. They're just an
Yeah,
engine, right?
yeah, they're usually
Would you
diesel
like
engines.
to guess?
I have no idea.
$24,000. Fuckers. That's where
For
they get you.
basically a glorified semi truck engine.
Right, and just of course, if you, even if you fly a lot, that's only like once a decade or so you're having to do it. So just shit, it's probably cheaper to buy a new engine, but or just a rebuilt one. And I think a lot of people do that because they swap engines out of planes out quite a bit, and I think it's because of that. But it's all these exorbitant costs that they put on top of it because it's not for you, poor man. Stay away, poor man. They do
Right.
that kind of thing a lot to price you out. And when it comes to building material, way exaggerated, dude. I mean, if you want to get like if you go get like what do they call it? Formica for your countertops, it's pretty cheap,
Mhm.
right? You can get that done, and it looks good. It'll last a long time. It's probably actually better. Well, I don't know, but anyway, you can get that. And it's just fine, right? Or you can upgrade to granite. Ooh, you just lay down a lot of damn money. And then how
Yeah.
about
That's what I
upgrading to marble?
Yeah, I have granites. They were in the house when I bought them, though. I didn't pay for them. Well, I did,
Yeah.
but on the back end.
Well,
Um,
you can pay thousands or even tens of
yeah,
thousands depending on the type of marble
yeah,
for something you would pay maybe $1,000 for a beautiful center island and counter setup for your kitchen, right?
right.
It's insane what they do. But anyway, hey Grimlock,
We're joined.
we're just kind of killing time chatting.
Is he
How
here?
you doing?
There he is.
We're talking
There's the dulcet tones.
we're we're talking about history again. I do apologize.
And you got to apologize to me.
Oh, good. That's good because I get yelled at a lot. But it's over here, especially on like the drawn and quartered stuff. I do take a lot of punishment. I do, but it's good for me. It's cathartic, Grimlock.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I see.
Brings me down to earth because I'm not used to it. We Americans are always busting each other's balls, which is a sign of love, right? That's how we are. We men, American men particularly. Well, British are like that too. But other cultures are less and less so. Here in Japan, I don't know if I've ever seen ball busting ever, ever, unless it's coming out of me and they don't get it.
You serious?
Yeah,
They get all hurt.
yeah. So I don't really do it. So I don't get to enjoy that male bonding very much over
Oh,
here.
Japan. What happened to Japan? They lost all of their balls. How'd that happen?
They did. That is
I
true.
know some.
Yeah, the samurai
Did,
spirit
did
is
the
definitely
nukes do
gone.
it? I think the nuke. I'm gonna blame them. I'm blaming America for it. That's it. We did it. When we nuked them, it just
Well,
they shriveled
it's
them all up, and that was it.
it's the first time in their history they were ever defeated.
That's true.
And
And soundly defeated. Not just like, oh no, they were done.
well, they
They were
lost some
beat.
battles here or there, sure, but they were never
Yeah,
defeated, ever. And you have to keep in mind the Japanese of that time, and even today. Well, they've lost that, but Asia's kind of lost it. The ethos, religious ethos, quite a bit. But
mm,
they were very religious. Their leader was literally a living god.
right.
And the gods had protected them. A lot of people have heard the word kami. How do we say it in the West? Kamikaze. How do we
Yeah,
say it?
kamikaze.
Kamikaze. Yeah. Here they say I've been here too long. It's because it's kami meaning God, kaze meaning wind.
Right.
So kamikaze, which is the God's wind, and it had actually, there were two typhoons that popped up, and when the Mongols were trying to take this place over,
Yes.
twice the a typhoon came up and literally blew them into the bottom of the ocean, saving
Yes.
Japan. So they believe that the gods protected them, and then the Americans just waltzed in here and just keep bombing them. Are you going to quit yet? You going to quit yet? You going to quit yet? And they
Would you
quit.
please?
Yes, please. But and I think it broke them psychologically. I really do.
Yeah.
And it
It's
hasn't repaired.
the Ghost of Tsushima game. That's set in that time, and you're on Tsushima where that happened with the Mongol invasion.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's very interesting what happened on that island because it is historically known here, and that's a cool little game. Yeah, no, you're right, Elrod. Every aviation costs are crazy. They've gone through the roof, dude. I mean, airplane costs have doubled or more just all of
Yep.
a sudden, right? And I'm not talking about fuel. I'm talking about the airplane itself. It's
Right.
insane right now. It's true. It's just something I've always been interested in. Owning a boat because I have my boat's from 1991. right? It's an old boat, right? But it's in beautiful condition, and a lot of people put love into it, including me. So it wasn't that expensive. I got it pretty
Mm,
cheaply, and it costs some to operate, but I can afford to maintain it, and I could do a lot of the work myself. I had a lot of actually mechanical skills, right?
mhm,
So I'm able to do most things myself beyond what you have to have licensed, like certain engine things.
right.
So I'm actually able to own my boat cheaply, and I got it cheaply. A plane is another matter. So I don't know that I would ever even think about trying to own my own plane because that's a lot of money. You're putting a lot of money out. But what the good thing about flying is you can rent, airplanes
Yes.
to take out for the day, or
And
the
it's not as
weekend.
expensive as people think it
It's
is.
not. It's not. It's really much cheaper than you think. So I mean that's the route I would have to go because there's no way I could afford. My wife
Plus,
would not be happy.
if you do private charter or your own plane,
Well, you could
you
do
have
that
to
too.
deal with a lot less nonsense as far as like the
Oh
airports and
yeah.
things. There's just a
Oh yeah.
lot less you have to deal with.
Yeah, you just do your checks, and you have to deal with the tower, and all that kind of stuff, and you just pay your fee, and off you go.
Yeah.
So and it is that's a lot of people do that. That's how you get into flying cheaply, right?
Yep.
But yeah, the aviation costs have gone through the freaking roof, dude. It's crazy because that's another kind of YouTube thing that I pay a lot of attention to. I watch a lot of stuff about planes and classic planes being restored, and a lot of plane stuff because it's something that's interests me, and they're all upset about it because
Right.
I'm in that category of people who can try something but can't necessarily. I'm not at I can't be it, but I can try it, right? And most of the YouTubers are the same as me, right? They're that kind of people. They're not, rich people don't make YouTubes, right? Unless they've gotten rich off of YouTube. But you know what I mean. So they're not happy because it's ridiculous. I got to start chartering flights to Chester Sex Mountain. I'm close to DC, so there's plenty of potential clients. This is true. This is true. Yes. I suppose I should just go ahead and start the brothel. Did you know in Japan that fellatio is legal to to
Is it
to
now?
to make money off of? Yeah,
So you're telling me I need to move to Japan and start a brothel,
let's see. Sure, yeah.
a
Penetration
blowjob
is
brothel?
penetration is technically illegal to sell. However, what a girl decides to do is, you know, what she
It's her
decides to
business.
do. It's her business. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
literally.
Japan's kind of found their way around it, you know. I think a lot of countries do. America can, but then again, America was settled by Protestants, so what do you want? But
Well, in America, we have this end around that we call them escorts.
Oh,
You
is
see,
that it?
they're called
Yeah.
escorts. They don't sell sex. They sell an experience, Chester.
Oh, I
That's what
see.
it is. Yeah,
Well, I never paid for one of them things.
me neither. I
Yeah.
I knew one of the girls who used to work for me back in the day when I ran the appliance business. She used to be basically like the booker for an escort service in town,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like, so what's the deal there? They just go on dates with them? She goes, oh no, they have sex every time.
Of course
Every
they
time,
do.
every
Well, that's the point.
time.
Yeah. But the funny thing, because I was a bouncer in strip clubs for 12 years, off and on, 12 years.
Mhm.
In my life, I've never actually given a dollar to a stripper, ever.
Mhm.
Isn't that weird?
Or in fact, they gave you dollars if you were the bouncer.
They did. They most certainly did, which is why I worked in strip clubs. Because at the end, it's really I don't know why any bouncer wouldn't. I don't know why it's flooded because actually there's a stigma to it. So a lot of
Right.
bouncers they don't want to have anything to do with the strip clubs. They stay to the nightclubs. But the thing is, the strip clubs are safer because people automatically know that don't mess with the dancers, right?
Right.
So you have far less stress. You still get some, but it's far less than a nightclub. I mean, shit, I worked at the Temple in New Orleans. My God, dude. It's like every goddamn shift.
Mhm.
And you also get a percentage tip from the girls,
Right.
which you don't. Now, if you work in a nightclub, depending on the situation, you're just getting a salary. Some places the bar will actually kick back to the bouncers, but it's rare. So you're
Right.
just getting whatever your pay is, and it could be fairly good. But at a strip club, you're getting your salary plus you're getting tips from the girls, and you're getting bar tips. And keep in mind, the
Hmm.
bar is where they sell their champagne drinks, right? Uh,
Champagne drinks.
well,
Um,
that's the way they
yeah, I
sneak into
used
strip
to
clubs, right?
way back in the day. Now this was like 15 years ago at this point when I was working in a warehouse. One of the guys there, it was only like a part-time situation. Pretty much all their main employees were part-time, and one of the other guys there was a bouncer, and he worked at a strip club, and he would sometimes make just obscene amounts of money
Oh yeah,
just
yeah,
being
yeah,
a
yeah.
bouncer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah. But what I mean the champagne drinks is if you go to a place and they have champagne that's priced like $500, or like if you're in a real swanky one like $1,000, yeah, champagne doesn't cost that much. That's not what you're paying for.
Right.
Yeah. That's what the champagne drinks are. That's the system. But yeah.
It's a good
Anyway,
system.
yeah. Well, it's people always find a way around, right? Um, uh, but um, but yeah, so depending on the night, if you get some high rollers coming in, they all want to have sex, right? Well, then you could have thousands and thousands of dollars dropped on the bar, right? And the
Right.
bar will percentage it out to the bouncers, and the whole house actually gets a share of that. So if you have one of those kind of nights, the girls are making killer money and they're giving you a percentage, including the illegal stuff. We shan't mention stuff, as well as the bar. You can make killer money as a bouncer on a good night, particularly. I've certainly taken home over $1,000 in tips before, or
That's crazy.
tip shares. Yeah,
Yeah, he was only working that job because they had full benefits even for the part-time people. So he was working like at the warehouse job with us, but he only would work a few nights a week as a bouncer, and they just make obscene amounts of money. It was ridiculous, like how much he was making. So he had the job there just because of the benefits, because it was full benefit, it was good benefits too. It was right before Obamacare came in and all the nonsense that happened with American benefit structures. They were really good, and then he would go there, and that's where he'd make his money, right? Is as the bouncer at night,
sure.
and it was crazy. I remember he said he had one night he had almost $1,500 that he took home. Just
Hmm.
that's yours now, just for one night. Like
Oh yeah.
holy crap, that's a
No,
good night.
it is a good night. I mean, and that's not every night, and it's not
Yeah.
every strip club. But yeah, no, you can certainly make that kind of money. I loved working there in those places. I loved it. The only negative thing I ever had in my experience, from my point of view, and some guys don't have this problem, but it was keeping the damn strippers off your dick. That's an issue in my opinion, because they're so damn horny, right? Because it's their job. And even if they are selling champagne drinks, which not every place does, right? Some places do. Even if they're doing, I don't know. I've never done it, but I'm kind of thinking that the customer doesn't really concern himself with her pleasure.
Mm,
Right, so even in the
true.
champagne bars, maybe even worse so, those girls are just mad horny, dude. And they
Hmm.
and their only outlet, because not a lot of people will date a stripper, right? Their only
Hmm.
outlet is you. You know, you're the thing there that's safe. You're the protector. That adds another layer to it as well.
Hmm.
So that's the only negative I have. And because I was when I was first married, I was doing it, bouncing, because it just, I was trying to do other things, and I eventually got myself in property management. But I need to make money. I got a new family. I can make money. I was working down in the Crystal Palace, and that gets a lot of Japanese executives in it, dudes. You can make killer cash. But the problem was, now it was worse because I had a ring on my finger, and you know how women are when they know you're married, right? So my God, dude, it was too much. And my wife wasn't. She's not the type to complain about these things. She's Japanese, but she didn't like it. So I quick as I could, I tried to get myself out of it, and I did, which is a little bit unfortunate because I can deal with the horny girls. Because it was rough there for a while. Of course, right? We're moved to a brand new place and starting a new life all over together. It's going to be rough for a number of years before you get yourself settled in, right? And it would have been nice to keep that stripper money on top of me, but oh well, oh well, it is what it is. Grimlock, you ever work as a bouncer? As he's muted, talking into the ether.
No, I can't say that I've ever had.
No, no,
Nah, nah.
I'm the only one.
Yeah. I think you have specific qualifications for that.
What? Which are?
The
You're
barbarian.
silverback with a beard.
Oh,
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, size does help. There is a certain intimidation factor, but there is also a level of drunkenness that no longer matters, right?
I
Um,
mean, I'm a thick boy for my height, but you have several inches on me, sir. So, like, if I looked at who'd more likely to be a bouncer, I think it would be.
Oh yeah, I know I get that, but actually, as a big guy, and of course working in such a physical job for so long, I never worried about the big fellas. Although, one of the unfortunate incidents in my career of doing that was with a big guy. He was too big, and he was much bigger than me. He was big. He was, I don't know, 6'7" plus. I don't know. He was huge, and he was a big,
Yeah.
thick boy too, football player. And I literally climbing up on this guy trying to get him down because he was way out of control and ended up popping his eye out, right? Just because of his
Ooh.
thrashing around. It wasn't my intention. He did it to himself, but that's still I feel bad about it, but that's because he was so big, right? But normally I never really worried about the big guys. It was the little guys I concerned myself because they're fast and speed kills.
Yeah.
And they tend to have a chip on their shoulder. Little men are annoying, especially when you put a beer or two in them. So that most of the troubles I ever had in working in that business was with little guys, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So but the good thing about little guys, you can grab them up by the back of the neck and walk them out.
Mm.
That's a good thing. But yeah, no, I know there's a lot of bouncers who won't go anywhere near strip clubs because it's just like I said, there's a stigma. But it's unfortunate. If you're hearing my voice and you're a bouncer, you might want to think about it because there's really good money. And like I said, the only thing you got to worry about is the strippers themselves. Because otherwise it's a better gig. Like I mentioned, I worked at the Temple, and I mentioned that probably several times because it's the worst experience I've ever had as a bouncer. But the Temple down in New Orleans, I don't even know if it's still open, but at that time it was mega hot, right? And New Orleans is a tourist destination. It's a tourist city, right? So you get a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
tourists, and when people are on vacation, they tend to be far less inhibited than normal, right? And then you put alcohol on top of that, and that place, I don't think I had a shift that there wasn't some manner of violence. It was just ridiculous, that place. I've worked at other nightclubs too. I tend to lean towards strip clubs, but if I can't get a job there, I'll take a nightclub job, right? But
Hmm.
not even close. The Temple was insane. How much violence and how just people just losing their shit. And there, of course, when I was working there, what were like 12 bouncers, I think there was, yeah, a staff of 12. And most of the places I worked at, there was like sometimes just me or maybe two of us, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, because two is probably the most common because there's usually a guy on the door and a guy inside, right? And when I was young, of course, I was the guy on the door a lot, and then when I got older, I was the guy inside a lot, and which is normal, I suppose. But yeah, there was 12 bouncers on that floor, dude, 12. And there was and you had doormen too, which they don't have to have the qualifications of a bouncer, but the door guys can help, right? But that
Right.
I don't know. Since you guys never did the job, you don't understand what that means. But 12 bouncers on the floor is a lot, dude. That is a lot. And it was a sizable place, but it wasn't that big. It was just because of the violence.
Violent men.
Violent. Well, it's always the women starting the shit, dude. It's always the girls that start the shit, and they do it intentionally. You know.
Yeah, it tends to.
Yeah. But anyway, we're 40 minutes in, and we haven't talked about comic books at all, Grimlock.
Not
And
one little bit,
not
mister.
one
He's just
bit.
rambling on about bouncers. I
I
don't even know where he got on it.
I blame Grimlock.
I'll accept that
Fair.
because I did nothing to stop you.
To be honest, I was kind of killing time because I was hoping that Ben would drop in because we're talking Valiant, and he and Adrian, and if Adrian's listening, drop in, dude, because you know Valiant as well. Because it's not a lot of people don't know Valiant, but I'm going to get into it though. So let's go ahead and do that. Anyway, let's go ahead and do this first. All righty. So let me go ahead and do my presentation. You guys just keep an eye on the chat because I won't be able to see anything from where I am. All right, here we go. Now, of course, we've been talking Valiant and about the history of them from Jim Shooter up through the Acclaim buying it, and Acclaim, of course, getting into the idea they want to make video games, which they did. And things were going great. People were making money hand over fist. Of course, this was same exact time the Image came out, the Image Rebellion, we'll call it, and but it also led into the absolute collapse of the comic book industry because of over investment, right? And we all know this, right? We're all comic book people here, it was an absolute tragedy. And of course, that led into the late 80s, early aughts of everyone trying to desperately do anything they could to reboot everything and get interest back. And Valiant did the same. And during that period, of course, they changed story origins and just dumb stuff that they shouldn't have done, right? And they put themselves in pretty bad shape. However, this all led into for Valiant 2005. Now, this, in my opinion, from 2005 to 2018, well, more like 2016 to be honest with you, but we'll get into that later. But from 2005 2018, this led into Valiant Entertainment. Once again, a name shift. And what had happened is that because of that debacle and the increasing losing interest that was coming from all this weird origin changes and just really weird stuff that they were doing, they had kind of fallen down, and Acclaim was desperate to sell it, right? And they did. I think it was like $65 million or something like that. I can't remember the number, but they did sell it, and they sold it to a group of people. But that group was led by two. It was led by Dinesh Shamdasani and Jason Kotari. Now, as you can see, these are two Indian boys and others. And we'll talk about the others next week because in 2018, the death of Valiant took place. And we'll get into that next. That's kind of the end of the story, of course. But this fella right here has gone on. I don't think he's involved with Valiant at all anymore. But he's actually a big kind of business guru type. He writes books. And if you actually look into him, you wouldn't even know he was involved in comic books. You just think he's some money guy, some economics Wall Street guy, right? And he's been very successful. But his buddy and the others that were involved in this purchase, this is the actual comic guy. Dinesh. And Dinesh, if you go and read his story and see the things he did, this guy loves comic books. He's just like we are. He's a comic book fan. He was really excited to get a hold of Valiant. He loved Valiant stuff. And as far as I know, he's still with the company. Like I said, I'll cover that next week. But Dinesh here is the real deal. And what he did for Valiant was bring the passion back. right? And he took all those stories and all those damn stupid origin changes they did, and he reverted everything back to where to shooters set up, and he just put a lot better art on it and a lot more love. And in my opinion, 2005 to 2015 or so, 16, that 10-year period under the complete helm of Dinesh is the golden age of Valiant. It's just absolutely awesome. It's fun. There's so many good things going on with Valiant at that time. And of course, that's where all the hype came from: the role playing game, the video games, and the movies, which we've already seen one of. We know that Vin Diesel's Bloodshot 2 is coming. The Harbinger movie, it gets mentioned and then not mentioned and then mentioned again, so we don't know what's going on with that. But well, like I said, there's the current Valiant is a different conversation we're having right here. But just it was just so much fun. It was really great. It was a revival for many of us. Because me, I kind of remember Valiant back, in the 90s with Image stuff. I'm sure I checked out some, but it wasn't until Dinesh took over that for me, it was the reboot of Valiant Entertainment, and it was really where I got heavily involved. And I love this guy's passion. I love what he did. And the first thing he did was launching the Summer of Valiant. That it just blew up. And continued to blow up year after year, bringing Valiant back with just incredible charge, popularity, sales, and money. And like I said, things went on all the way up to 2018. Although the few years before that, you could see the writing on the wall, right? And then in 2018, there was the company was bought out, and which brings us into current Valiant. But I'm really appreciative of Dinesh. I love what he did while he was the boss, the CEO, CFO. Or I think it was both of those things. And that is my biggest recommendation is to read Valiant Entertainment comics. The stuff before that, stay away from the late 90s. It's really bad. The early stuff back in the early 90s, it's fine. Especially mid 90s where things were just popping off, and you see this character Ninjak here. He was like, I know a lot of people don't know this, but he was actually one of the most popular characters in comic books in the mid 90s, making killer money. Very, very appreciated. Even though I've never been a big fan of Ninjak, but whatever. This is the Dinesh era. And today I wanted to take time to talk about some more characters from Valiant. And whereas these characters either didn't exist before or I never paid any attention to them, and these are really kind of Dinesh making them interesting. And we need to start with Archer and Armstrong. Now, we talk about a bunch of characters from Valiant, and there's still a few important ones to talk about, and there's ones we won't even cover. It's a full-on comic book company, right? But Archer and Armstrong is very, very interesting. The guy in the center of the screen, his name is Aram, and he changed his name to Armstrong later. But he's from way, way, way back, super ancient times. And he and his brothers had been out and they had found this ancient alien technology. And they brought it back home, and by messing around with it, they ended up killing their entire village, some kind of weapon. But in the process, Aram here of the three brothers became changed, mutated, right? And making him immortal, right? Can't die. And the problem with him of the three brothers getting this power, and of course the others are dead. Pretty sure they are. Yeah. The others are dead. And is he's a drunk. I mean, he's just an absolute drunk. He's a lush. He's useless, and he's always been that way. And he's gone throughout time being that. He hasn't evolved, right? Now that sounds bad offhand, but when you look at the what's going on in the comic book, it's actually freaking awesome. Now the guy there on the right, that's Archer. Now Archer, there's an important thing about Armstrong or Aram. One of the main components of that alien weapon or that ancient weapon, he kept with him, right? And during his journeys, you see that backpack on that haversack on his back. He actually found that I forget where he got that, but that backpack is showing Dinesh's D&D nerddom, I am sure, is bottomless. It can hold as much as he wants to put in it, and he can immediately recall anything out of it, right? That's an important bit of information because he keeps a lot of things in there, including a demonic monster, which is interesting. But he put that piece in the backpack, right? And he went on with his throughout the millennia, living his lush life, and I mean as in drunkenness. But Archer, he was raised by a cult. And that cult wanted to rebuild this ancient device so that they could murder the world. You know, typical cult shit. And this kid was raised from birth to be a cult assassin. He didn't know anything about the outside world. He didn't know anything. He was just fully brainwashed into the propaganda of the cult. And eventually they unleashed him to go because they knew Armstrong had that piece and they wanted to get it from him. And Archer was sent in. Of course, he failed to get it, and Armstrong, for the first time in a very long time, took an interest in another human being. And he started to educate the kid about the world. Well, no, this is actually what this is or that is. And he taught the kid a lot of things, and the kid joined him. And on to incredible adventures they went. And this is the comic book. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to spoil things, but it's fun, dude. Archer and Armstrong is a fun book. It's not overly serious, nor is it overly wacky. It is just a fun, interesting book. Now, Grimlock and Thundera, have you guys ever read Archer and Armstrong? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Wow, you're roboting. Something's going on. How about you?
No, I've never. I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Yeah. There is, I overall, especially during this Dinesh era, the Valiant Entertainment era, before the DMG era, I I love what they did, and this is it's different. This is a fun and different book. This is not your standard superhero comic book. That's not what this is. And it's very very interesting. I highly suggest you guys read this book. Some of the other more classic stuff like Man of War, it depends, that's an interesting story too, but it is more superhero-y. Ninjak, of course, is definitely superhero-y. That kind of stuff. If you're into the more pulp or mystery adventure type of stories, this is your thing, right?
Hmm.
And I would suggest it. Is Thundero got his mic working yet?
Oh, do I? Does it sound better?
Oh, there you go. There you go. You're coming in now. You ever read this?
I have not, unfortunately.
Okay. This is one I really suggest. I mean, I've talked about a bunch of these characters from Valiant, and I know they're not for everybody, but I really think anybody who enjoys any comic book of any kind should read this. It's fun. It's a fun, fun book, which brings me into the other team book that they have, and of course they have, and I mean I should say duo book that they have, and that's Quantum and Woody. Now,
Mm.
Quantum and Woody and Archer and Armstrong, they actually threw them together into a larger team called the Delinquents, which was fun. That was a fun comic book. It leaned more toward the goofiness of Quantum and Woody than Archer and Armstrong, but that was fun as well. But Quantum and Woody, as I said, goofy. This is a comedy book, and it's comedy book done well. I'm not always a big fan of comedy comics. How about you, Grim? Do you like the comedic comic books?
If done right,
Yeah,
if
that's it right there.
that's
Yeah.
the big that's the big if. But yeah, if you got somebody who knows how to do it and can tell a good story while being funny without just overly focusing on being funny, because that's where so many people fail is they try to overemphasize, oh, they want to make this joke so badly that they just screw the rest of the story for this one
Right.
joke.
Right. Yeah, you see that a lot. And that's just failure to be able to write comedy. And I understand it's not easy. Do you like comedic comic books, Thundera?
Yeah, it's same rule. It has to be
Yeah.
done right, and it can't be like he's saying. It can't be too over the top. I don't know. I would say I like. What's the way to put it? It's not so much that I like comedic ones. I like ones that are not necessarily 100% serious. But a
Right.
lot of times, like he was saying, when they go for comedy, they go too far, and it just
Yeah.
just becomes nonsense, basically.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. Yeah, I'm actually probably more strict than you guys are. I don't
Yeah.
like comedic comic books, but I absolutely love Quantum and Woody. It's probably the only comedy comic book that I like, actually,
Good.
and it's because it really is written well and it's done well and the premise works so well. And I'm not going to give spoilers because there's a lot of cool spoilers, more in Quantum and Woody than Armstrong actually. But here's the deal. The guy on the left, his name is Eric. I can't remember the family name, but that's Eric. And Eric's family adopted a little white boy called Woody, the one on the right, when they were
Oh,
young. The problem is that Eric and his family, they're very normal Americans, right? Eric, strived for perfection. He went on to join the military. He's a clean cut, heroic, good man is what he is, right? Woody, however, since the day he showed up in his family, is nothing but a piece of shit. Right? I mean, he's absolutely detestable, and they hate each other. They hate each other with a passion, right? Because they're literally opposites. And Woody is nothing but trouble. He's always thinking about himself, self-centered, just destructive, horrible personality type, right?
Mhm.
But Actually, I forget exactly how it happened, but there was some incident where they ended up getting superpowers, right? And the problem with the powers they got was Eric here, quantum. They're quantum-based powers, by the way. He can shoot energy blasts, quantum energy blasts out of his hands, and Woody can create shields. Okay, now fair enough. They hate each other. They don't have to be near each other. They go away. Well, wrong, because if they stay too far away from contact with each other, they will disperse into atomic molecular breakdown. Right? They will die. So a scientist actually helped them create these bands that they wear on their arm. Eric wears it on his left arm and Woody on his right. So once a day, they must touch those bands together or they die. Right. So it's in essence the chain gang story taken to an extreme, right?
Mhm.
Because they cannot separate from each other, even though they can't stand each other, right? They have a goat, by the way, which I'm not going to tell you anything about the goat, but it's fucking awesome. I know it doesn't make sense, but trust me. But this story is funny, and it is very actual funny, and it's very interesting. Quantum and Woody, just the premise itself lends itself to so much comedy, right? Eric being the do-gooder and Woody being the criminal, basically, and they have no choice but to be together. And of course, when they work together, they are devastatingly powerful, right? But they are very very loath to do so, right? And the whole comic kind of takes that, and it also this comic book has one of the best villains ever created in comic book history, by the way. And that is in and of itself is worth reading. Quantum and Woody, and the villain is Betamax. Yeah, I know. His name is Betamax. But what he is he's a cyborg from like what, the 50s or 60s, maybe the 60s. He's a cyborg. But the problem was the way he was built, the way because he was like one of the original cyborg creations in this universe. The way he was created, it completely made it so he can never be upgraded. right? He'll die if he tries to upgrade himself. So he's a villain, a cyborg villain, and he's stuck with all this old technology. Like he's got this Polaroid, camera thing he's got to use, and it's just the comedy of the villain stuck with old technology in a modern world, right? And his villainy, and it's just funny. It's just he's a great, great, great villain. You know what it reminds me a lot? I got a lot of that vibes of the love I have for Spider Jerusalem. You guys know that character? No. Okay. But anyway, read Quantum and Woody. You will love it. It is a lot of fun. I advise this even more than Archer and Armstrong, but I really think Valiant with its duo teams did a great job with these two duos. I think they did a really really good job, and I kind of think these cross the genre of what kind of comic books you like to read, right? They can scratch all those itches. This is definitely a comedy book, and this has got some comedy in it too, but it's not at the same, right? But anyway, have either one of you ever read Quantum and Woody?
Another one that I have heard of but never read.
Hmm.
This was, I guess, this was mostly during the period that I wasn't reading or even buying comics that I heard of them.
A lot of people didn't buy Valiant. Unfortunately, they had enough fans that they were successful in making money, but they were never DC or even Image, right? They never
Yep.
made it to that level, and I think it's a shame, especially during this Valiant Entertainment era we're talking about today. That's why I really wanted to have Ben or Adrian in here because these guys know Valiant and they love it as much as I do. But nevertheless, I don't want to get into too much spoiler with these things because I want you to go read them. But it's fun. Just go read it. I kind of can't see how anyone who likes comics wouldn't just have a laugh at it. You know what I mean? So uh, it is fun. It's just the premise is really interesting, especially of how much of an asshole Woody is. My God, this guy is bad. And Eric is easy. The straight man is easier, right? Because he's just straight laced. He's simple. But Woody is so spectacularly rotten, and that's part of the big fun. But anyway, so there are two duos I want to talk about today, and I wanted to end with a solo hero. And next week I'll get into some of the other ones we haven't talked about, like Livewire and Eternal Warrior and stuff like that, because I want to cover their big hitters. Like I said, there's a lot of books and characters I'm not going to go into, but they're kind of mainstream big line stuff I wanted to cover. And of course, the big time one, of course, that needs to be covered is Ninjak. Now, honestly, this is actually a model statuette you can buy for this character. The thing I've never liked Ninjak. Now I keep calling him Ninjak because that's what everybody else calls him, but that's not actually how you pronounce it. What, Chester? Yes, he's not. It's not Ninjak. It's Ninja K. Yeah, I apologize, but that's the reality of it. Like I said, I never cared for this character. Basically, he's a highly trained agent that studied ninjutsu, and he can control his body to such a point that he can heal and has longer lifespan, and yada yada yada. Right? It's that kind of crap where Bloodshot for me was much more interesting because it's nanotechnology. And you got to remember when that came out, nanotechnology was a brand new term, right? No one had really understood or talked about it. And it wasn't too long after the initial Bloodshot introduction, I'm pretty sure, that we got that movie with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. You guys remember that movie? What was it called? Had a had a weird name.
Um,
Hmm.
you're not talking about Book of Eli, are you?
No, no, that's a great movie. Someone go check that. Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe is young. It's a young Russell Crowe, and he plays the villain, and he is a nanotechnology villain, right? And it's one of
Okay, I've seen that movie. He eats glass.
he does
Uh,
silicon, yeah.
Yeah, is it? No, 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 no.
I think it starts with an F. Pretty sure. But as he looks that up, but that was one of the first movies I ever recall seeing it being used. It probably wasn't the first, but it's the first one I kind of remember. So
Virtuosity? Is that what you're
Virtuosity,
thinking?
yes, thank you. It's not an F, it's a
Yeah.
V. Yeah, Virtuosity, and it's actually not a bad little flick, but
No,
not at all. It's kind of fun. But then again, you have Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington. I mean, come on,
yeah.
right?
Both
Uh,
both when they were younger, still, still could sell the action really well.
oh yeah, oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, Russell hadn't even really come up yet, right? This was
No,
'95. That was
that's
before
true.
Gladiator.
That's true. Yeah. And this movie probably got him opportunities, I would say. And of
Oh
course,
yeah.
Denzel was already known. But anyway, so just to be fair and honest, I'm not a big fan of Ninja K. But he needs to be covered because he was one of the biggest hits they've ever had, especially in the mid '90s. He made a lot of money, especially with those chromium covers. They made a lot of money off this character, right? And that's I'm surprised and we haven't seen more from him from Acclaim making a video game or something like that. But then again, they because they did Shadow Man, they did Turok, of course, several of those. They probably were planning a Ninjak and they collapsed. Acclaim collapsed, right? And by 2005, they were just wanting desperately to out. They wanted out, and they sold it. Like I said, to Dinesh and his group. But just to give you a little bit more information about Ninjak, he's actually an MI6 agent. His name is Colin King. He's not Asian. He's an Englishman, and he is Ninja K, and that's why a lot of the people say Ninjak because they just read it, and I think the company just went with it. But if you look at the covers, it's depending on what cover you're looking at, especially in the beginning, it was Ninja with a capital K at the end, right? Because it's Ninja K. And like the MI6 stuff with 007, 009, 003, whatever, they do the same thing. So there's like a Ninja A, Ninja B, Ninja C, etc. He's Ninja K, right? So it's not actually Ninjak, it's Ninja K, which Ninjak sounds stupid, but Ninja K even sounds stupider.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ninja is one of those words that you can't mess with. It
yeah,
just
it's
doesn't.
hard.
Every time it's tried, it just always sounds like cringy and try hard.
It does. Although the stories with him are written really well, the action drawing and the action in him are done really well. He is basically he's kind of I hate to use the word Steve Rogers, but he is the Steve Rogers of Valiant in his combat ability. So he's nowhere near as honorable and order based as Steve is. But in Marvel comic books, Steve Rogers is considered the absolute pinnacle of hand-to-hand combat, right?
Right.
His competitor for that would be Taskmaster, right? And that's what this character is as far as his combat ability. He's that guy, right? And he's got like technological suit that allows him to like become invisible, almost invisible, and other things. So the character is fleshed out. I guess they were trying to go more this kind of like their Batman, I guess is what they were trying to do with him in a way. And a lot of people do like this character. To be fair, they are well written, and the action art is really good in many of them. Like particularly during the Valiant Entertainment era, the art went way up. Right, I mean, Dinesh put a huge emphasis on art, and also when we'll come back to talking this other one, like I think Archer Armstrong, or is it Quantum? I think it's Archer and Armstrong. This is a Casada book, right? Joe Casada, right? They had big hitters involved with this company. But anyway, I had to mention Ninja K because, well, just you have to if you're going to talk about Valiant. But I wish one of the other guys was here who actually might love Ninja K so they could talk about him. But like I said, I wasn't a big fan. But you got to mention this character. You guys ever read any Ninjak?
Barely remember it if I did. Like I don't.
To be honest, that he was a character I didn't become aware of until like a couple years ago.
Yeah. The thing that puts me off of it is the name, right? A ninja, right? And I maybe I'm a little bit woke in this regard, but I never liked the idea of the white ninja.
Racist.
Well, I just don't like the idea of it. It's like, well, we have our own assassin, heritage, right?
Yeah.
Why do we need to have specifically the Japanese ninja? And keep in mind, the Japanese ninja were highly political. They were more like a government spy than anything, right? They
Right.
weren't some they weren't some assassins league or anything like that. That's not what they were. They were government spies, right? So I don't know. I just never cared for it. The white ninja.
The only place that I've really liked the non-Asian ninja is, and I'm pretty sure I'll sound like a basic bitch for this, is Snake Eyes because that story worked.
Yeah, but he's an actual ninja, though. You see.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah. He was raised, and I think he is like half Asian, right? His mom was like a Japanese lady or something like that. But well, I mean, that's different because he was actually raised and taught as a ninja by Japanese. This guy is just a British agent who was taught ninjutsu. It's
yeah.
not the same, right?
No,
yeah, that's silly.
it's not. That kind of like falls when something like that kind of falls under the when I kind of scoff at like when people say it's a mantle. Yeah, you just can't like give a sword and an outfit and go he's a ninja. Not really.
It's a ninja now.
Well, and I understand during the late 80s and 90s, the ninja craze was everywhere. I understand why why he was created. I do, I get that. I just never cared for it, especially seeing as we talked about Assassin's Creed yesterday. The West has
Yeah.
a very rich and deep history of assassins. Of course, the word
Yes.
itself is what? Persian, right? Or Arabic,
Yes. Comes
right?
from Hasashi.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So but we have a rich history of our own, and they were highly combat creative, and they spanned a much broader gambit than the ninja did, because sure they were used politically as spies and stuff, but you also have just assassin leagues, right, that
Yes.
had no political connection whatsoever. So I would argue that the Western assassin heritage is, if we're talking about murderers here, but you know what I mean, is far richer than the ninja. But the
Well,
ninja just
listen, guys.
sparks something in your
Sometimes
mind, right?
it's all the mythos around it.
Yeah,
Sometimes somebody's got to get got. All right, and you need a professional for that. You don't want sloppy people out here doing
it's
it.
true. That's true.
So it's like a gardener. It's a really high paid gardener. That's all
Yeah,
it is. Just
that's
clean
true.
it up.
No, no, it is true. And then, but the ninja has that motif and that mythos around it. You're right. And I understand the appeal. I do it.
Yeah.
I love Shokusugi movies when I was young, so I do get it. But
I
enough
mean, I like
bashing on
ninjas
Ninja K,
too.
huh?
I like ninjas too, but I've always been partial to samurai. I don't. It's just their whole. Even though the reality is, I know the Japanese don't like hearing this, but the sword wielding samurai is largely a mythical figure more than anything, because they usually used spears and things
Spears.
more
Yeah,
than they did
yeah,
swords.
yeah.
But I like it, right? Just like I like the cowboy, right? The cowboy's also largely mythological too. There were some, but they weren't what we think of like from cowboy movies. At least most of them weren't. So it's the same thing. That whole genre, I've always really liked it, and I think ninja kind of fall into that same vein. They're almost a mythological figure. Not that they didn't exist, because they did, and
Oh, they
ninjutsu
certainly
is
did.
real.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but it's still
Well,
the
actually,
the
Daitoryu
legend
is
around.
probably what they would have actually studied, not this
Correct.
ninjutsu thing. But no, you're
But
right. Yeah.
I just always have liked the mythological. I guess you would almost call them like super warrior or secret warriors. Just the whole mythos built around them. I don't know. I like it. I like that Japan has two of the best, with the ninja and the samurai.
Him.
Um, and there's others all over the world, but I actually kind of agree with you. I think it's. I don't think it's like on some like weird, oh, it's racist or whatever the
No, no,
nonsense
no.
the
It's
left
just
talks about.
weird.
I just
Yeah.
think why not just use our own? We have our own
Yeah,
heritage of
exactly.
really badass warriors.
Yeah.
Just use them. I
Well,
don't understand what the problem is.
it's kind of like over here when I see foreign girls come over and put on a kimono. It doesn't look right, dude. I understand their desire to do so, and that's fine. Go right ahead, enjoy, right? But it doesn't look right because the
Yeah,
kimono is fashioned specifically to show off certain central points of the Japanese body, right? And the Japanese body is different than foreign girls' body. It just is.
right,
The Japanese have much longer torsos. They have shorter calves and forearms. For them, the height of sensuality was the nape of the neck. It's just the Japanese culture and their bodies are their anatomy is different. And when you see a foreigner in a kimono, it just looks off, right?
right.
Oh well, right? The thing with a ninja too, not the ninja, the ninjas, most Japanese wouldn't use the word ninja, by the way. They would say shinobi, was actually
Correct.
what the average Japanese would say. And you're right, Captain Canada, Michael Dudikoff is awesome. I know what
Absolutely.
I just said, but I do love the American Ninja movie. But
See, that's one of the ways that ninja works, though. If you call it American Ninja, that sounds good. That's got like a nice phonetic ring to it. Ninja K sounds like a cereal.
yeah, it's dumb. I never liked it,
K.
dude. I never did. It's one of my least favorite Valiant things ever. But
Does it come with marshmallows?
it should.
It must.
It must, yeah.
Yes.
Uh, but uh, but anyway, for the ninja, Japanese would say shinobi anyway. They that ninja would be a very rare use from their point of view. Of course, the Japanese are nowhere near as obsessed with the shinobi as they would be with a samurai anyway. The
Right.
samurai is much more culturally important. And the interesting thing is that's another word that the Japanese would only use in a specific situation. Mainly, they would use the word bushi, which
Yes.
means basically soldier. Because if you sit down and have a conversation with Japanese, and I've done this before because I want to understand the psychology of the thing, so I ask questions in that regard. It's hard for them to explain to you what the difference between a bushi and a samurai is. It's very difficult because they're not much different. The only real difference comes down to samurai tend to have a little bit more of authority directly from their daimyo, right?
Right.
That's it, though, right? The Japanese don't distinguish it the way we do. For them, it's a bushi, and you're right. Most of them wielded spears, which is the best weapon if you're going to war. It just is, right?
Yes.
And of course that's what they were. But interesting thing about the samurai that we envision with the daisho, which with the nihonto, the wakizashi, and the tanto set up on their belt, right? The multiple blades. It's called the daisho. And the armor that they used. The interesting thing for me about them is they are highly respected warriors because they were really good. They were very dangerous. And a lot of Ronin would leave Japan because of the stigma. And they actually went into like China and stuff and became sword cells, right? Mercenaries. And they were highly sought after and they made big money doing it. But the interesting thing is this: you have inferior armor. I mean, it's literally like wicker and leather.
Jeez.
It's inferior. It might look cool, but it's shit armor, right? The Nihonto, even though people screech to the heavens when I say this, it's an inferior weapon. It is. It's made with inferior iron because the Japanese were not good forgers. They were not. It's literally it's not even crucible steel, dude. It's forged steel, right? And it's basically just a big old iron rod. Now, sure, they had technique to it, and it bent on them, and like, oh God, what do we do? Our swords keep bending. Well, they worked with it, and this is where the samurai became, or the bushi became badass, particularly the sword wielders. They trained them so ridiculously hard that even with inferior equipment, they were radically deadly, right? Because they took all the disadvantage and they turned it into an advantage. That's the interesting thing about the bushi, the samurai, right? That's what's interesting about them. But a lot of people miss that, and they go on about the armor, or especially in the nihonto or katana. People just on and on and on about, oh, the katana is the most awesome thing ever. It's like, fuck off, dude. It is an inferior
Probably
weapon.
the broadsword is probably the best sword, if I'm
Well,
being honest. One
if
of
you
them.
had to
It's up.
choose a sword to go into battle, I suppose.
Yeah.
Technically, the best swords are made by the Indians
Yeah.
from India. But those swords are so specialized. You need a lot of very very specific training to use them properly. However, they are dangerous people because their swords are just insanely good quality. But the broadsword or the hand and a half sword, it's if you're going to, just a general person, you want to just take a soldier and throw them into war with a sword and not a spear. Yeah, the hand and a half sword is the way to go. It's the way to go.
It's
Um,
just
yeah,
it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't require as much training. You just
mm-mm,
really have to hit them with it.
yeah.
That's
Uh,
pretty
but
much it. Just
but
hit them
the
with it.
but the overhand the front facing overhand style that they
Yep.
trained with, that could be trained very easily. And of course,
Yep.
people's athletic skill would add to it, of course. But
Right.
the technique was easy. You could train people very easy, and it was very, very effective. Keep in mind that the Tartarian hordes did their best to pop into Europe for a long ass time. And they didn't get
Yep.
in. Why? Because those dudes were literally wearing metal shirts with freaking broadswords and superior metal weapons. That's why the Tartarians, who are highly sophisticated people, did not get into Europe. All right. Yeah, no, I would agree. The broad, the or the hand, they would call it the hand and a half sword would be the
Correct.
term, the common term. But yeah, that would be the best overall choice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know why people have such a mystic opinion of the Nihonto though.
Because it looks cool.
It
It's
does,
aesthetic.
I
And
suppose.
it does. You can do really interesting things when it comes to cutting with it, like
Right.
just tricks,
But you
basically.
have to be, yeah, but you have to be highly trained.
Yes.
Highly
Well, yeah. If
trained.
you
You can't.
glance with one of those, you're done.
Hmm.
If you're going against somebody with a broadsword and you get a glance, they're going to come right in and you're dead. You're done.
Right.
It's over. Especially
Yeah.
if you're wearing samurai nonsense armor. You're
Right.
done.
That's right. But if you take someone, and of course, a lot of the actual operating, bushi, especially the Ronin, they didn't wear armor anyway. Because
Correct.
they know it's useless and it's heavy. They want the speed over the minimal protection.
Yeah.
But if you do have someone trained in the technique of using that weapon, the way it warped and all the kind of weird things that went on with it, they were highly deadly.
Yep.
I mean, there's no joke, right? It does get me how people just go on and on about the katana, and it's like, wow, dude. What does Roger say? Uh, damn or dame. Then today's comic news must be real bad if Chester is talking this long. Oh, damn. I'm sorry, Roger. We're on topic though. We're talking about Ninja K.
Yeah. Ninja K.
Yeah. Uh,
Ninja K. In fact, I would say uh, of the Japanese swords that people know of, the one we consider the ninja sword is probably a better weapon,
well, it's
just
a more
because
modern one. Yeah.
it's a more modern one. It
Yeah.
doesn't break or bend as easily as the katana will because of the fact that it's got the single blade and it's
Well,
got
it's
the curve.
also a crucible steel
Yes.
weapon, and that's why it's straight, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a better weapon overall, to be
Mm.
honest.
Now, not oh, it is. It's more modern, what Europeans would be used to, because don't get into the Chinese because their weapons suck.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
I love me a kung fu movie too, but no, No.
It's
Uh,
amazing that good old Sun Tzu, The Art of War, but it's still read to this day in
it is.
all military academies around the world for a good reason.
Hmm.
And yet the Chinese just kind of suck at war. They're
They do
just not
suck
good
so
at it.
bad at war, dude. They really do. But that's a conversation for another day. But and I will give credit to the Japanese weaponsmiths because they were working with inferior things and they found ways around it by putting softer steel and wrapping it with harder steel, and they worked around it. They figured out how to make it the best they could. And I'm not taking anything away from their efforts because it is quite elegant, the solutions they came up with, but comparatively if you took a katana versus a person with a katana who's not radically trained in it versus like we mentioned the hand and a half sword, that hand and a half sword person is going to walk away 9 times out of 10,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It just is because it's more universal. It's like with the Romans, and they had success with several interesting weapon upgrades. But the reason they were used the gladius is because it was because they're a shield sword combination, and they're
right,
poking through a wall because they're a phalanx based combat system, right? They're not out there
right.
like you see in the movies where everyone's running and individual combat. That's not how they worked. Um,
No,
but they used the gladius because in their war technique, it was something they could train to anybody really quickly, right?
correct.
This is important. Ease of use is important, right? When you're
Well, it's one of
talking,
the reasons why people have this idea that everybody has misconceptions about archery, but archery is actually one of the hardest, like actual archery is one of the hardest war skills to
oh,
learn and well, not to learn, but to master. Um, and so when the crossbow came around and started becoming
oh
more,
yeah,
readily available,
the
that was a
equalizer, yeah,
massive change.
yeah.
Yeah, with ranged
Same with
combat,
the
and then
gun,
obviously
right?
that led right into the gun.
Yeah,
But
it did,
the
yeah. But
crossbow really made it so if as long as you had crossbows and somebody who knew how to make the bolts, you could arm anybody really with
yeah,
very little training, and they could be very deadly.
Yes,
because
and the liberals of their time tried to ban them.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure they did. But another thing too, a lot of people, and once again, it's Hollywood. When you're looking at a line-based
You must
battle, which
control these assault bows.
that's true. But the British, the Europeans do love their line-based warfare. But a
yep,
lot of time in the movie, you see all the archers in the back, and they'll just launch ahead of them. That's it. That's not actually how it worked in the battlefield, though. Archers actually were moving rapidly through the fields, often in little small groups. They were moving and firing at a very high rate, right?
right,
The English archers were ridiculously good and deadly. Their bows were the pinnacle of technology, the yew longbow, but they were used in a very limited way. Whereas if you take the recurve bow, that's mainly coming out of Persia. Right, but if you take that bow, it doesn't have the bang. I mean, you can take those old longbows and you can put them into an engine block, dude. I mean, those things are
yeah,
powerful, right? But it's a much lighter draw, much lighter hit. But those guys could move around the battlefield, shooting, just shooting, choom, 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 and just moving through the battlefield, just pegging people left and right, dude. It was not really the image we have of what an archer does is not actually how they were, which
right,
is unfortunate because what they really were is much cooler, dude. It's more
yeah,
like Legolas. Legolas would be the standard, right?
hmm
But anyway, that's we're off topic. And
yeah.
Thundero, Roger, I'm
Grimlock,
sorry.
jeez.
Thundero he can't control himself.
I'm blaming Grimlock. It's all
Yeah, we
his
should
fault.
always bring Brimlock and his assault
See,
Very
crossbows.
and you know what?
Grimlock.
I was just about to contribute something, but now I'm going to keep it to myself.
All right, you do that. Yeah.
Actually, it was going back to Quantum and Woody.
Mm,
Now I remember where I heard of him because I wanted to look it up. I've been wanting to look it up because I just looked it up again, and Quantum and Woody was was one of the co-creations of Christopher Priest.
yeah.
I like Christopher Priest writing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. No, Christopher
yes.
Priest is cool. Yeah. 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 And I think this is back before he changed his name, even originally, was it?
No, this is
Maybe.
after.
It is after he
This is
changed his name.
after.
Okay.
Because he was still using his real name in the early Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
But I think like by the early 90s, he was using the priest name.
Yeah. You know, Quantum and Woody is a real good read. I mean, I really wish that it would be better if they kind of just slapped an R rating on the damn thing, and it would be better. But I do love it. It is lots of fun. Well, anyway, let's get into. I do have some news to cover as well, so let's go ahead and get into that. Let's see here. There we go. Boom. Alrighty. And there are some weird stories today. So let's go ahead and
It would
bring
seem
this
as
up.
such.
And go
Marvel
ahead.
Comics artist Mike, how do you say that? Diodato?
Mike
Jr.?
Diodato.
Diodato. Yeah.
Nonsense.
Sorry,
Shares
Grimlock.
own nude photo to slam how Namor, quote, looks worse in shape than himself in Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Now, what a weird ass story this is. Of course, Mike Diodato Jr. Is artist, and he does Namor stuff, right?
Yep.
Recently, he's been doing quite a bit of Namor stuff. Did he do the old stuff too? I'm not sure. He's been around a while. Diodato is not a new name at all. He, being the artist attached to Namor often, is not pleased at all with what he's seeing come out of this Black Panther Wakanda. And he doesn't understand it because he's an old dude, right? What is he, 60? 60, yeah, 60-year-old guys are in his 60s. And we talked about this a little bit with this Namor, and that we weren't hating on the change. We were like, oh, all right.
Was.
Well, you were, but the rest of us were like, maybe. I thought the costume looked kind of cool, and the idea, especially with Namor, because with the mainstream audience, he's unknown, dude. He's really unknown. We know who he is, right?
And that's Marvel's fault because they abandoned him
Well,
after I want to say after the John Byrne run in the 90s. He was pretty much abandoned.
I would say even earlier than that. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. But whatever. You know, mixed opinion on whether we liked it or not. But Mr. Deodato really didn't like it. So much so that you know, they were showing awesome art from him, and he's an amazing artist. Take a look at it, dude. It's
He can
awesome.
draw.
Yeah, he's a good artist. He's a
He
bit of an
is.
asshole, but
Yeah, well, he's definitely an asshole.
that's kind of the standard these
It
days.
is. But he's a great artist, though. Look at that shit. But anyway, he decided that he was going to demonstrate. Yeah. So yeah,
He's got a point.
he
He does
does.
have better definition in his back than this chubby guy here.
Six.
He's not even
have-
chubby. He just isn't.
He's
He's
young
not as
and
in shape
smooth.
as he should be.
No.
Yeah, he should be a little bit more ripped.
And Namor is, you know, comic book heroes tend to be fit anyway. But Namor has always been drawn because, you know, he's basically naked, where a lot of them are wearing suits and things like that. But Namor's naked, right? So the artists have always gone to extreme detail with Namor's physique, right? And he's very muscled. He's just chiseled out. He's a mutant. Keep in mind, he's that's his background. He's an actual mutant, right? He's half Atlantean, I think. But anyway, there are a lot of half things in comic books if you haven't noticed. But yeah, this guy is a bit smooth. He doesn't have the definition you would expect coming out for Namor. You would expect Namor to be absolutely ripped, and he does have a point. But my question is, as a 60-year-old artist, is this necessary, sir?
No. My wife was just saying, did he really have to take a nude photo? He couldn't put shorts on. Like, why does he have to be naked for this?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, he's proud of himself, though, I guess.
Apparently, he looks like he just got in a fight. Like his skin's messed up.
He's 60, I guess.
So you shouldn't be walking around like that.
I'll say this: the nerve as a 60-year-old man, even though he is in great shape, to take a picture in the nude, does kind of fit with Namor's attitude. So I'll give him a point for that.
It does. You're right. He does get points. But I know if I'm going to take a nude photo, I'm definitely doing it from the back because that's going to be the better shot. You know, I don't know because all the ugly stuff hangs off the front for some reason. But nevertheless, um, uh, uh, we're just showing off some of his art here. He's an amazing artist, and Namor, of course, is absolutely ripped. And this is well, it was speaking of Christopher Priest. He's the one that did the whole this whole run that they're taking the story out of, right? He's the guy who did that with the Wakanda stuff, right?
Yeah, but I think they was taking Hudlin's run, which I don't
Oh,
know
were they?
why you would take
Okay.
Hudlin's run, but
Well, because I'm pretty
I
sure
mean,
that.
I mean, by comparison, it's better than Coates. But I mean, uh, reading an obituary would be more entertaining than
That's fair.
Ta-Nehisi
That
Coates.
is fair. But I thought that Priest had it because Priest is the guy who came on a Black Panther, and he's the one that really kind of modernized the
Yeah,
the cosmology of Black Panther, right?
yeah, he did.
I thought for sure he was the one doing the Namor stuff, but I guess I'm wrong. Um,
They
it,
it's kind of they just use his name as a talking point. It's kind of like the She-Hulk writers constantly
yeah, and
throwing
it
John Byrne's name
pisses him off. Yeah.
when you can clearly see that they have not fucking used Burns material. It's
Right. Well, yeah, no, that's true. And Christopher Priest actually said, "I'm not taking any more contracts from you people until you give me a non-black character."
yeah,
Priest is the guy who did
and
that.
yeah, and the great he's got a great point because I don't know if you remember the Spider-Man Wolverine book that he did.
Oh, sure, yeah. And Priest is a
That
black
was
dude,
such
by
a
the way,
good
just so you guys know.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was such a good story, and it had a dark ending, but it's like, man, you got to the end of that, you felt for everybody involved.
He's a good writer. He's a really good writer. Christopher Priest is excellent. And I think the problem we're having is we saw this picture and we were like, oh, okay, all right. But
Yes,
obviously that's not what we're getting. This is a
and
doctored photograph.
that's some good Photoshop there.
Yeah, good job. That's why they comic book arted it. A photograph because we can see here that yeah. Now if you were making some cholo in the hood, yeah, okay, this I was what I would expect, but Namor
Even Cholo in the Hood, them dudes are buff because they've done jail time.
some of them are, yeah, but you know what I mean, but because there's a lot of belly hangs going on there too, but
Yeah,
I get it. I wish he took this out of trailer. I wish we had a frontal view, but they haven't showed us yet because it's
I'm
a secret.
I'm gonna be honest. If since they decided to do that, I would laugh. I would actually go to the movie and laugh if they just had Namor as Cholo in the Hood.
Yeah,
He's like coming out of the water with the khaki shorts, with the flip flops, with the socks on.
yeah, the tats all
I
across
would,
the chest. Yeah,
yeah, I would go just for the amusement of that.
yeah. I
It's a
always
it's a modern take on Namor, guys. God.
yeah, well,
And that,
yeah. It's a funny article though. The Deodato it's funny, dude. It is funny. But I
and
don't
if I'm
know
not
what you
mistaken, Mike's Brazilian, so I guess he's trying to make a further point. It's like, well,
maybe, yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna.
But I usually when I was in New York, living in New York, when I was younger, I was mainly in Brooklyn Heights, and we were in Flatbush for a while. But as an adult, I lived in the Village in Manhattan, right? And but one of my places I did enjoy, I like going down south to Chinatown and all the bakeries off to the like the northwest of Chinatown. There's a lot of bakeries over there, right?
Oh yeah,
Some really good shit. But I much prefer Spanish Harlem was way more fun than Harlem. I have to say, I did enjoy that place a lot more. Although you're more than likely to get cut there, but I did enjoy Spanish Harlem a lot more, and I haven't lived in New York for nearly 30 years because I've been
great food.
traveling. But yeah, great food, dude. Although Harlem's got good food too. But how about today? What does Spanish Harlem look like today?
I can tell you.
Oh, that's right, you're not there
Consider,
anymore.
consider
Yeah.
yeah, well, and considering how gentrified it is,
Oh yeah.
since even the last times I was been there,
Yeah,
eh, I don't
dude.
know. A lot of the character from old New York has been stripped away.
Yeah, but is
Unfortunately.
that bad thing though? I mean, look what's happened to Hell's Kitchen. I would say it's better because
Oh, well,
back in like the 80s, which is my 80s early 90s, which is my stint in New York. Yeah, not good,
yeah,
not good.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't even drive in Brooklyn. I mean, in the Bronx, dude. You literally couldn't even drive there. Don't stop at a red light. Don't do that. Just saying. Maybe gentrification isn't all that bad. No, no. All right, fine. Be like that. Did something happen to Grimlock? Did we lose him?
Oh, you lost him already.
I don't know. He's having some kind of mic problem. But anyway, interesting. It's just interesting story. You don't see 60-year-old mans doing butt naked photos to rant about the lack of fitness of an actor. It's interesting to me. I get a kick out of it.
It is
Anyway,
pretty strange. It is pretty strange, but I don't necessarily disagree with him. The guy who's playing Namor needs to get himself shredded, in my opinion.
well, Namor particularly should be a bit more shredded because he shows skin all the time, right?
Yeah,
Like I said, a lot of characters they might have the tights on, but they are covered. He is one of the more naked all the time type of characters. So you know,
yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I'm running to the movie theater for Wakanda, but we'll certainly get clips of it. Nevertheless, let's move on to the next story, which is even funnier. I mean, this next
Mm.
story is freaking hilarious. Don't piss yourself, everyone.
Quantum Leap shows off first footage of Raymond Lee in action.
Okay,
Oh boy.
this is your new Quantum Leap lead. See him? That guy. We see him in movies. Isn't he like the Harold and Kumar guy? Isn't that who he is? Isn't he coming out of White Castle, the White Castle movie?
No, that's not him. I don't
Are you
think. Oh
sure?
no, who's Grimlock? He might have maybe cut out. Um, no, I don't think that's him.
Well, whatever. I recognize him almost. But nevertheless, Raymond Lee here is your new Quantum Leap star. Now, what they've done here is it's 30 years. Is that what they said? 20, 30 years later. And they have picked up the technology and they're looking into it again. But for some reason, lead scientist Dr. Raymond Lee decides to take a leap, an unauthorized leap, and get stuck himself. Oh, wow. Okay. And during this race swapping, a pseudo reboot, he goes on little adventures where he jumps into bodies. It's exactly a copy of Quantum Leap, just with an Asian dude and a goofy
Yeah.
looking Asian dude too. It just doesn't work. But just here we go. It gets so much better. It gets so much better. There's a bunch of teasers we're going to be looking at. Oh, you better believe we're going to look at them. But he's playing Dr. Ben Song. I'm sorry they made you Korean, Mr. Chinese man. I apologize. But they
Yeah,
who knows? Just Asian in general, right? Poor Orientals.
that's all that
But
matters. Yeah.
well, that's all that matters, right? But he gets to reveals Ben leaping into an '80s hairband rock star. Oh, another into a soldier during Desert Storm in Kuwait, and another teases that history is not set and that he can change it. Dun dun dun. Okay. Now, to be fair, I'm going to say that the actor in the original Quantum Leap is one of my favorite actors. Although I didn't watch much of Quantum Leap, it wasn't my thing. But I know some of you guys like it and have talked about it. I think you liked Quantum Leap Thundero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And I love that actor. I love it. What's his name again?
Scott
Uh,
Bakula.
Scott Bakula. Yeah, I love that dude. He's my favorite captain, by the way. Take it. Okay.
Yeah.
He was
Good
awesome.
guy.
Anyway, these teasers, which we're going to look at, have a feature various people Ben will jump into the series, including astronauts, and, construction worker, and baseball player, and the same shit you saw in the original run, right? But look at his team. Now, to be fair, this team does have Mr. Ernie Hudson as Herbert Magic Williams. So, shout out to the man. But look at the rest of the team. What is that thing in the middle of the screen? What is that?
I have absolutely no idea what I'm looking
What
at.
is that?
What are we looking at here?
That's a non-binary.
Ugh.
Yeah, yeah, we got to have one of those. But it's just it screams modern woke stuff. And who's this lady? Who's this lady over here on the left hand of the screen? You know what she is? She is a highly decorated combat officer that is sent back as the hologram. Kalavici is her name, right?
Oh boy.
Of course, in the original, you had Scott Bakula and had that great little actor from what was it? What's that guy's name? He's in a bunch of stuff. He was perfect though. But she, whereas he was kind of a little bit afraid and very sarcastic and very interesting character. She's this hardened, highly decorated combat veteran. Yeah, okay. Go give me an example ever when, please, for Allison or Addison, wherever her name is, Addison. So this is your. Does she look like a super hardened, highly decorated combat veteran? Is that what she looks like to you? She looks like a latte sipping, woke tart is what she looks like. But whatever. It continues. Of course, you have your non-binary character, Ian White, played by Mason Alexander Park. You don't look like a Park. Okay, whatever.
Dean Stockwell.
He
That was his name.
identifies as Korean.
Dean Stockwell was his name.
Dean Stockwell,
The
yeah,
guy in
that guy was perfect. He was funny. He's so sarcastic, mocking him all the time. Oh, but
Al.
anyway, and of course, here's a shot of the AI helping him out. The hardened, super hardened combat decorated veteran. That one. Yeah. And our goofy looking Asian guy. I mean, God damn it! Can't you pick someone who has at least the beautiful jawline of Bakula? I mean, come on.
I mean, why couldn't it just be Ernie Hudson? Why not?
Yeah, no, that might have been fun. And while you could go with an older dude, there's no reason you can't. You're jumping
Yeah, he's
into another
jumping into
body.
other people's
Yeah.
bodies, so what does it matter?
Yeah, Ernie should have got some love. You're right, dude. Because this is future. They're not. They are, but they're not technically replacing Scott Bakula. It's 30 years later. But you're right,
Right.
dude. They should have put Ernie in that role. He would have been much more fun. But I don't know. He's just goofy looking. He doesn't look heroic to me. He just got those Dumbo ears. He's just goofy looking, dude. I don't know why they chose him. But then again, they chose or some for Shang-Chi, they chose literally a salaryman, a business guy. It was what he looks like,
Hmm.
right? And with a big mouth. But anyway, let's take a look at these little teasers because they're fucking hilarious. Are you ready? We're gonna do this one first. Okay. He's a rocker. He's a rock and roller, sir. Okay. And he's a rocker girl. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You see what I mean? He's kind of goofy, right? And look at all the
Hmm.
rainbow love it's getting too, right? It's so rainbow colory they've made this. But he just goofy looking dude. I mean, look look at it, dude. I mean, help me out, Thundero.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Look at it.
Yeah.
The chick's
No, I'm with
hot.
you. I'm with you. I don't know. It's what we were talking about yesterday, right? So they'll do this. They'll swap out the race swap or whatever,
Mhm.
and then they'll pick somebody to make it worse. They pick somebody who's just nowhere near as talented in presence
Right.
as the
Yeah.
original person.
Yeah.
Like
Eh,
Scott Bakula, for all his flaws as an actor, he could instantly own a scene with a look. He had that ability. He was one of those guys.
Yeah.
And this guy, well, he can own a scene, but it's all the wrong ways. At least the scenes they've shown. So maybe he's gonna maybe he's gonna shock the world. Chester, he's gonna come out there
Yeah.
and he's gonna hit that note and he's gonna get that serious tone and his whole face demeanor will change and it'll just nail it.
Yeah.
I
No,
doubt it
no,
though.
I doubt it. No, he just goofy looking. He doesn't have any presence at all. And keep in mind, Sam will be lost forever, says Ethereal Dragon. But actually, I doubt it. I bet you we get a cameo from Scott Bakula. I bet you we do. Because keep in mind, this is 30 years later. This is not replacing him. This is a different team. So at least we have that, right? That it's not a direct swap, although that's what they're doing. But I would guarantee a cameo from Scott Bakula, dude, if they can afford him. We are talking about NBC here, so but let's
Well,
see this
here's the
one.
crazy thing.
Yeah,
Here's the crazy thing, right? So I remember they talked about doing a show like this years ago, right? A reboot of Quantum Leap. But the idea is it was like his family was trying to find him, right? Because he's still lost. At the end of
right.
the spoiler for the 30-year-old show, they never do get him out. He's
No,
stuck in
he's
this
stuck
thing forever.
in time. Yeah,
And that was the premise. They're trying to get him out. This years later, a family member or something, descendant or whatever, has redone the experiment to try and find a way to get him out, and ends up stuck in it too. And I like the idea of that. Now I don't know if that's what they're doing here. I haven't looked into it
no,
very
it
well.
says that they're simply revisiting the technology for its potential. That doesn't
Yeah, see,
scream to me anything about saving Sam. Yeah.
that's terrible. They should have done that original idea. That original idea is solid. That would
Sure.
make sense. Somebody,
Easy. It's easy
it's
to pass
easy
it
to write.
along too, right? But
Yep,
you
pass
you
along, and then you could do the cameo. They bump into each other at some point, and there it is, right? He's there. He's still stuck. He never got out.
mhm,
And you can have that be the mission. And then if you don't plan on this show being one of these perennial forever shows, which I wouldn't recommend since the first one was only on for 4 seasons anyway, and had a very good finale, um, you could you can write them where they save them, right? Why not? Why not
sure.
this one have a happy
Well,
ending because the other one didn't?
well, you know what
Whatever.
they could have done with it. They could have went in season one. It could have been getting him out, right? And had
Yeah,
the cameo with him, the various cameos with him being in it. And then because they perfected the technology, you evolve the show and transfer it into more of a time police type of consortium and all the intrigue that can come with that, right?
would have been
You
good.
could have easily evolved it and seen where it went, right?
And you
Uh,
could have had him stay around as a character and be against it. Like he
yeah,
becomes almost an antagonistic
yeah,
force because of what happened to him.
a
That
little
could
bit of
could
love
save.
for Scott Bakula. Yes.
Yeah, let Bakula get some chops in. Uh, no. Instead, what do
No.
we get? This
Well, it's just
nonsense.
it's basically a reboot
Yeah,
without rebooting it. But and I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. They could bring in any team they want. Of course, they got to have the woke shit because it's NBC. But I'm not. I don't give a shit about any of that. It's this guy, this actor Raymond Lee here. He just doesn't have any presence whatsoever. I expect
no,
him to be in a comedy because that's the face he's got.
right.
And
And it has nothing to do with the fact that they race swapped. As annoying as that is,
it doesn't
like you
matter.
said, it is a new thing they're trying to do with it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just him in general. Just
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
that the Shang Chi guy. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he's kind of the same
Simu
way. He's
Liu.
just bland.
Yeah,
There's
no, very
there are,
bland. Yeah,
believe it or not, Hollywood, there are Asian ethnic actors who
yeah,
aren't. They're just not bland. They actually have
sure.
presence and charisma and can carry a scene just by
Yeah,
being in it with just face shots and things. I've seen
right.
them. I've
And we
watched
we
them
have.
do it.
And but you do need that actor who could pull it off because to be fair, in America and the West, Asians, it's much easier to cast an Asian as the goofy, silly
Yep.
sidekick. It's just the image
Yep.
we have. Even though we do have great character actors like Ken Watanabe, of course, you didn't. No one laughed at Bruce Lee on the damn screen. And of
No.
course, the legend, the absolute legend of Egg Shen.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, need we say more? But I don't know. He's just this guy doesn't strike me as an.
I still
It
think
doesn't work.
I think we're right about this. Well, if they weren't going to use our boy Ernie, if they wanted to use an Asian for some reason,
Yeah,
they
whatever.
should have got an older one, an older man, uh, and lean into that. Lean into the fact that he's a little bit older. Don't try and go for this like middle-aged everyman or whatever you want to call it that they went with this because that it's. I don't think it's going to work. Maybe I'll be glad to be
Well,
wrong, but I just don't think it's going to work. One of the reasons Quantum Leap, can't even say it right now, worked is because Scott Bakula was a very handsome, debonair-looking man.
and with
He was able to
incredible levels of presence.
Yes, he was able to pull your attention. This guy doesn't pull my attention. I've
No.
watched a couple of 'cause I love Quantum Leap, so I would love for this to be good. but it's just he's not grabbing me. He's
It
not grabbing
almost
me.
feels like they've made it a comedy.
Yes.
They probably did.
Yeah. Oh, you're back. Hi.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's look at this next one
Had a
because,
little power suit.
dude, these teasers are hilarious, dude. They're hilarious.
Oh,
Watch
you,
this
you
shit.
know what else?
Watch it.
You know what else bugs me about this reboot?
Yeah, let's just watch these teasers real quick. Look at how goofy he is. Oh my
Right.
god, dude. Oh my god, dude. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Grimlock.
You know, one of the things that bothers me about, because it seems to happen with these shows that have like elements of sci-fi in them, whenever they do these reboots, they always go with these. Because looking at that picture of like what's supposed to be his whole supporting crew, they look like they're in a government facility, and it's always with these kind of shows. When they reboot it, it's got to have like some ties to the government, like it's some government body now in charge of this technology or that technology.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't stand that. And also the supporting cast being twice as big as the original. It's like, did you really need that many people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the original, they pretty much just had him and Al.
This
There-
too.
there was
Yeah,
some
that was
other
it.
Him and Al.
Yeah, that was
pop
it.
in
It's just him and
occasionally, but
Yeah.
by and large, it was him and Al the whole time.
And of course, with the format they had, they could do the cameo of the week, which they did.
yes.
Right.
Well, and the
mean,
reason why the him and Al thing works is because we're watching this from his perspective, and he's stuck. So the only person he has contact with is Al. That
Right.
makes total sense for that to
And
be your only. This one is totally different. At least it looks like it. You have this big cast watching him. I don't know, man. I think they missed, right? They saw an old property that people still love, that is still really popular, actually, Quantum Leap, and they just, again, as they do, they've missed again. They missed the mark. They don't understand what made it special and why people loved it, and they are trying to ape it and failing.
And another thing to keep in mind with Scott Bakula's character, he was certainly forlorn in his predicament, but he always stood up to the challenge because he was a brave and good man. Right, that's a very important thing about Bakula's character, Sam. Right, this guy is coming off as this goofball. Right, he doesn't seem to have any bravery at all. He's just a goofball. Right, and Adrian here is giving me information because I knew he looked familiar. Adrian is telling, isn't that the actor from the show Fresh Off the Boat? That was like an Asian version of Modern Family or something. See, I know I had seen him before in some little one-off thing I had checked out once or twice. Yeah, I think that is where he's from. He's a goofy doofus. The guy is a weak man comedy, which we're already seeing exactly what he is, weak man comedy. We're looking right here at it. His wife cucked him constantly in that show. They need a large supporting cast because this guy can't carry a show on his own. Yeah. Well, the only person we know actually can be entertaining is Ernie Hudson, right? And I guarantee you they're going to cameo him. He's not going to be there all the time.
That's another thing they do in these reboots that I don't like, because you could say the same thing about the Magnum PI reboot too, is where they get these goofy looking fucking guys. It's like where
so stupid, dude.
I don't buy you being in that role. I buy you being the goofy. I buy you being the goofy sidekick, but I don't buy you being that role.
Right. It's just like Holland being in Uncharted. He doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not Nathan, dude.
Yeah,
it's
not
not.
Drake.
No.
Yeah.
It's just not. But anyway, let's take a look at the last little teaser here and continue on the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's look. They're really short. Uh-oh. Look at all this suffering. O.J. Simpson. Oh my God, dude. So pick a frickin' lane. Is it serious? Is it political, or is it goofy comedy? Pick a lane, dude. What are you doing? Look at this shit we're getting here. Hold on a second. So, oh my God, where am I? Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, I'm different. Oh my God, It's like Jesus. It's like this comedy, and then take a look at we'll look at this again. Look, what the hell is this shit, dude? Ooh, Space Age. Protests. O.J. Simpson. This is seems very serious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Holy crap. I don't know. I haven't, of course, seen it, so I don't know, but it's weird to me. Especially with a show like this, you could have done this easily in a very cool way. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't understand. Go ahead, Grimlock. I want to have a good
Well,
look at our
that was
non-binary here.
that was another thing. Like, since they have this, because like I think it's going to be some government body or something in control of this.
Sure.
What if like the premise was somebody else had got a hold of the technology, after the beginning of the season, the original series, but instead of doing what Scott's character was doing, this guy's just like wreaking havoc throughout time, and the government becomes aware of it, and they have to, use the technology to come
Mm.
and find this guy, whoever this guy is.
Yeah, no, that
I,
would be another. They're not doing that, dude.
I know they're not doing that because I would actually be somewhat interested in that.
I'm trying to see here. It's been nearly 30 years since Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished. Now, a new team led by physicist Ben Song. Once again, why are you making the Chinese man Korean? I don't know how much he'd appreciate that. Has been assembled to restart the project in hopes of understanding the mysteries behind the machine and the man who created it. Okay. So everything changes when he takes a leap in the past, leaving the team behind to solve the mystery of why he did it. At Ben's side throughout his leaps is Edison, who's a highly decorated combat veteran. Okay, who appears in the form of a hologram. Of course, we already know this. She's a decorated army veteran at the helm of the highly confidential operation. There you go. Is
Now,
Herbert
see, this is how
Williams?
you know this show is run by hacks. You give her a name that starts with A because Al, but why wouldn't you just name her Allison
Hmm.
so she can
Hmm.
still be Al? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He can still call her Al, and it would make perfect sense.
Yeah, but she's a highly decorated combat veteran.
Ugh,
Okay.
so dumb.
But Ernie Hudson is the kind of the boss. So maybe else we'll see more of him than I expect. I hope so. I hope he's getting paid. This confidential operation. He's a no nonsense career military. So you're right, it is government, 100%. Who has an answer to his bosses, 100% government. There you go. Who won't be happy once they learn about the breach of protocol. Uh-oh. The rest of the team at headquarters includes Ian Wright, who runs the artificial intent non-binary, Ziggy, and which is the Asian chick, who heads up the digital security for the project. As Ben leaps from life to life, putting right what went wrong. Hold on a second. As Ben leaps from life to life, putting right what once went wrong.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's a
Well,
line from the original show. By the
is
way.
it? Okay. It
Yeah.
becomes clear that he and the team are on a thrilling journey. However, Addison, Magic, Ian, why is Magic who's the boss not first? Okay. Addison, Magic, Ian, and Jen know that if they are going to solve the mystery of Ben's leap and bring him home, they must act fast or lose him forever. Dun dun dun. Um, yeah, okay. The tone's all over the place. I don't. The concept isn't necessarily a problem, but it's certainly the tone is all over the place. And this guy, he's just not the leading man type. He's just not. And you're
No.
right. It should be freaking Ernie. It should have been Ernie.
Yeah.
I would definitely show up for a show where Ernie Hudson is the new Sam Beckett. Or the
Yeah.
future, the same thing. That would be fun, and he'd be getting top billing money too, which of course we want Ernie to make some money.
Of course. I just think it could be a better show. And again, just I'm gonna go back to it because it's silliness. Her name should be Allison. Why
Yeah,
not do that? It's just simple. This is what I'm saying. These people who do these things, they don't know what they're doing. That's an easy win. That's an easy little bit of nostalgia bait you can do to people, and it makes sense in the context of the show's lore.
yeah.
We're not going to get that though. You get Addison, which
Well, I mean, look
is
at her,
just
dude. Does she look like a highly decorated combat veteran?
No,
No.
Addison is a porn star name. Let's start
Yes,
there.
it is,
That's porn.
that's what she looks like. She's a cutie. At least she's a cutie. Now, the non-binary thing next to him is ridiculous because we know those kind of people can't hold down real jobs. I mean, fuck,
Nope.
dude. So that's nonsense. But we're gonna get. He's got to become a breakout star. But anyway, it's sorry for all you Quantum Leap fans. I think they're kicking you in the balls again. I apologize.
Yeah,
Yep.
not looking good for the home team.
No,
Not
no.
looking good for the home
Not
team.
looking good. I just don't understand the choice of this dude. Look at him. That is not a leading man, dude. That is not a leading
No,
man. He's not even handsome,
no.
right? I mean, and there are
He's
plenty
not
of
appealing either.
handsome Asian dudes.
Yeah, he's not appealing to look at either. Like you don't necessarily have to be handsome, but you have to have character.
That's true.
His
That's true.
face is very banal. It's just boring.
Well, especially with the breakout of Korean cinema that's taken place over the past so
Yeah.
many years. There's a lot of good action guys you could have took out of that who speak. I guarantee you, they speak English, right?
Yep.
You could have brought over, and you would have had a little bit of that foreign mystique to him too, which can be cool if done right. And you would have had this handsome, hard nose type of action hero guy, right?
Yep.
You could have done that, but no, we get this dumpy goofus. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
It's
I
such a
don't get it
weird
either.
choice. Weird choice. But anyway, let's move on here. Let's move on. I do like my top 10 things.
Uh-oh. The most underutilized Spider-Man comic book villains.
Hmm. Um. Now that is interesting. Now, one thing we all know about Spider-Man is, aside from maybe Bruce, Spider-Man has the best rogues gallery. I think he does have the best rogues gallery, even over Batman. Personally, I know people would argue that, but he's got an incredible rogues gallery, and it's deep. Um, so, what do you think, Grimlock? What do you think is the most underutilized or under-respected Spider-Man comic book villain?
Oh, I used to like the Prowler, but they've kind of changed him up, so I don't know if that'd be the case anymore.
Mm,
Uh, they kind of did the same thing with Rocket Racer. They kind of turned him more heroic too.
it's
So,
true.
because we can't have cool black villains. It's against the rule.
Yeah, that's
Um,
unfortunate. Yeah.
hate that fucking rule. Scared ass crackers. No.
Yeah, yeah, fair. How about you, Thunder? You got a choice or not
Um,
something you?
underutilized. It depends how you define that. As far
Well,
as ones that I personally really like and I wish they would do more with, Scorpion.
Scorpion.
Um,
Yeah, that would definitely be on my list.
yeah, I'd say Scorpion's probably at the top of my list. I just really like Scorpion. I just like Scorpion. I think he's a good character. I think he's
It is
cool character
interesting.
design.
Yeah. And
Freak.
we haven't
Freak.
seen him yet, although we saw his tail in the background of one of the scenes in one of the movies. What was that, Grimlock?
Shriek. She's almost never seen without Carnage. I would
Yeah,
say Shriek.
yeah. I would have said the Vulture if they hadn't started using him recently, with Michael
Mm,
Keaton. But
yeah,
underutilized, underrated. This is from Frank though, so buckle
yeah.
in. So here we go.
Underutilized, underrated. For another one, I would say for me is Lizard. I think he's underrated by
He is
the
definitely
fan base a lot.
underrated, and that's one of the better villains or sympathetic villains ever made. I think the Liz is a great story. But anyway, the Enforcers. Now, the Enforcers are these kind of mafioso guys, is like a Tex guy, and they work for the Maggia, which is Marvel's mafia, right?
Correct.
And see, the thing is, yeah, sure, you can put them in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, but these guys are much more of a Daredevil, right?
Hmm.
I would put them under Daredevil's Rogue Gallery more than Spider-Man, because Spider-Man fights Kingpin too. But would you put Kingpin in Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery? Would you?
I'd say yes, but not. I mean, if I'm going to compare him to with Daredevil, no. But I do like him with him and Spider-Man together too. They work.
That is it does work well.
Yeah.
But I would definitely put Kingpin underneath Daredevil more than
Yeah.
Spider-Man, even though
Yeah.
they both fought him.
Yeah.
And I think the Enforcers go there as well. And but they, just for you guys know, you got Fancy Dan, Montana, and Ox. And they're just kind of like they're brutal. They're muggy enforcers, and they show up in the comics quite a bit. But like I said, I'd really put them under Daredevil, but although they have showed up in other things. So that's a weird start, Frank. All right. Molten Man. Hmm. This is a very, very old character. Way back, like 60s, right?
Good name though. Molten Man.
Molten Man. And yeah, he's early in Spider Man's career. There's nothing inherently unique about his origin or his ability to generate extreme heat and radiation, but that doesn't mean he can't be an effective character. Instead, in his relationship and history that makes him interesting, he's Liz Allen's stepbrother and has also been rehabilitated to become a hero, of course, again. But I know the character, but wow, that's just obscure. That's an obscure choice from way, way back.
Yeah.
And I never thought he was a cool character anyway.
I like the name. Name's good.
Yeah, but
But
yeah.
I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I don't think I've ever heard of Molten Man, to be honest with you.
Oh no, I've definitely heard of it. And I'm sure I've read it because I do have that full run of Spider-Man. But it just didn't stick in your head. It didn't
Right.
stick in your head.
It's probably the same for me too. I've read a
Yeah,
lot of Spider-Man.
yeah, that's true. Now this is a more interesting choice.
Mm.
Man Wolf. Now,
Yes.
Marvel and DC have done a lot of things trying to do the various werewolf stuff. Of course, the most famous, I think, from any of them is Werewolf by Night, right? Which
Hmm.
of course led us into what Blade and a whole bunch of stuff came out of that. Morbius too, wasn't it? Didn't Morbius come out of the Werewolf by Night? Hmm.
So,
No, maybe it was Spider-Man.
no,
But
Yeah, I think it came out of
yeah,
yeah, I think it was
Morbius is
Spider-Man.
out of Spider-Man, and I believe Blade was Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah.
Uh, mm, maybe. I know he showed up in a lot of early stuff there. Of course, Moon Knight definitely Werewolf by Night. But there have been a lot of attempts to do various werewolf things in the comic books. This is a very obscure one. And until I saw it, I had totally forgot it existed.
Yeah.
Because we need more damn werewolves. I'm tired of fucking zombies and shit.
Yeah, me too. We need to
Werewolves,
shift. Yeah,
man.
but zombies are so easy. So I can't say much about it. I do recognize it now that I see it. But yeah, I can't talk much about it at all. It's almost as if Frank's list should be the most obscure.
Mm,
It's so far they are obscure. I
Well,
guess
these
like
guys
I
aren't.
said, it
These guys
depends.
aren't. But
No. Yeah, I guess it depends on how you define underutilized. Because to me, underutilized is one that's used but poorly. Right? They're
yeah.
not used to what they could be. Whereas so far, these ones are either they're used fine, they're just not very popular or whatever, or they're obscure.
hmm Yeah, no, that's true. And yeah, Adrian confirmed that Grimlock, Tomb of Dracula for Blade. I guess just my brain is Werewolf by Night. They all kind of showed up in there. So
Yeah,
maybe I just
different
was
form.
kind of attaching that. But like I said, there's been a lot of werewolf type of attempts, and this is a weird one. Man Wolf is nowhere near as cool as Man Bat. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
true.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
accurate.
the Shade.
Shade.
Now that's an
Yeah,
interesting choice.
that's an
Yeah.
interesting choice. Yeah. Uh, yeah, that could work. You could do stuff with the Shade. You could do a lot with the Shade. He's
Yeah.
one of these characters that has an interesting, I want to say, interaction with Spider-Man in the way that Spider-Man their powers interact.
Yeah.
So you could do something interesting with him.
hmm I don't know this character as well. I don't. I know I don't recognize the name, although I have seen this image before. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I'm
you read so
trying to
many
remember.
comic books, they kind of blur together, don't they?
Well, yeah, and especially since it's Spider-Man, a lot of his stuff, like one of the problems he has is his rogues gallery is pretty big,
hmm
but a lot of them are very similar characters. They have, like you have Hydro Man, and then you have Sandman, and then you have Electro, and like they're very similar in a lot of ways. Those characters, they have different powers, but if you see what I'm saying, like they're kind of in the same vein of what they are.
Sure.
Uh, so that's one of the problems you run into with Spider, especially since he's been around for literally forever. So
Yeah. And this is one of the ones where Spider-Man interacts and does a crossover with Doctor Strange. Okay.
yep.
Get it. Get it. The Spot. Boy, obscure. Um, he certainly popped up from time to
I
time. He's able to open interdimensional portals that connect to one another, which makes for some very fun fights and antics. Unfortunately, he's always been a B-level villain. He's also, isn't he? Didn't I cover him as also being part of the Great Lakes Avengers?
I believe so, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say he's B level. I'd say he's lower than that. He's, yeah, like you said, obscure is the correct word for the Spot.
Yeah.
Very obscure.
He was
His
used
motion
in one
no-
animated series, but I
Yeah,
don't remember which one.
it was the '90s one because it was right near the end of that series. He showed
Yep,
up
you're
and
right.
Mary
You're right.
Jane. He sent Mary Jane off into the wherever
Yeah.
center. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, now I remember.
I remember that show very well.
However,
I see.
recently Carnage slaughtered and devoured the Spot. Oh,
Ate him up, gobble gobble,
that's
as
unfortunate.
Carnage does.
Yeah, that's too bad. But okay, this one is the first one I agree with. Although
Yes,
we did see a lame ass version of Shocker in the movie.
yes,
Lame. Shocker is he's a dumbass, but he's an interesting, cool lackey. He's a henchman. And they did him so poorly in the movie, dude. So poorly you didn't even know it was Shocker unless you know, right? You have to know that was actually
mhm,
Shocker, and they got rid of him like almost immediately, just gone, just thrown away. And that irritated the shit out of me when they did that. Well, that was the Tom Holland one where the Vulture showed up, right? He was part of Vulture's team. But I agree 100%. Shocker is not used as much as he should in the right way.
I agree as well.
Yeah. Although he did show up in the animated stuff a lot, though. Let's be fair.
Yeah, he's one of those. And he's in the video games a lot too because he's seen as that like lower level
Mhm.
villain, which he kind of is. And he's kind of like the first boss a lot, right? Like video games, he's kind of the one you got to beat up to get to the more well-known, more prestigious villains.
Sure. But an interesting thing about Shocker's power is he's not an electrical blaster, he's an ionizer, right? So yeah, he
Yes.
can punch you with a shock, but he also can phase through walls, right?
Yeah.
He can disable particles, right? So his
Right.
power is actually far more nuanced than you would assume.
Yeah, because they never really showed that in the animated series.
well, in the comics though, they definitely
Yeah.
lay that out. But no, you're right. He's always used as just the dumb brute who shocks things. But I still think he's a cool character. I always like the costume. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The costume is very, very comic book.
Yeah. It's very, very cool. Captain Canada says Shocker is also a great maneuver on the ladies. No, Captain, no. Okay. Now this one we have seen some weird takes on the Tinkerer. We've
Yeah.
seen some obscure takes that they don't even really tell you that it's the Tinkerer. And once again,
Right.
if you only know if you know. And that's weird. I don't understand. This is a character you could do a lot with, a lot. But they don't. So this is a good one. You got two in a row right, Frank. What do you guys think about the Tinkerer?
I like the Tinkerer.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Tinkerer. They in the Miles stuff, at least in the game, I don't know about in the books. They repurposed Tinkerer into like a friend of his that's a girl, and she's
Oh, of
actually
course.
wasn't a terrible villain in the game. But it was a little too, how they do nowadays, where because she's a girl, therefore she's not a bad guy, really.
Of
They do
course.
that nonsense.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I like the Tinkerer. I've always kind of liked Tinkerer villains. I think they
Sure.
work
Yeah,
like in
DC's got a
superheroes.
good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, they can really
Yeah.
make them. They really well if they're done well, they can really push the hero's cognitive abilities against him.
Yeah,
So
well, the Forge is a good example of a tinkerer
yes,
character taken to another level. But yeah, no love for the old villainous man. Oh, white man, I should specify. Although
gotta
I
get
think
rid of
he's
him.
a Jew, isn't he?
I
Pretty
mean,
sure
he's
he's a
got the
Jew.
nose for one.
No,
So
I think
in
he's a
that
Jew.
picture there,
But of course they gender swapped him with a girl. Of course they did. Yeah, because we know
yeah,
how tinkery and villainous women are.
yeah. A
Oh
teenage
fuck!
girl
You know
that
what? I would like to see that. Canada said cast Danny DeVito as the Tinkerer in the MCU.
Damn straight, dude. He's the perfect age for it. Give Danny some work. Although he made a lot of money off that. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, though, I'm sure.
oh yeah,
So good for that. But Tinker, yeah, no, definitely need more love and it needs to be done right. Not some tinkery girl, which is so weird. They always want to push the girls being the science tech people. And do they exist? I'm sure.
I'm
But that's
I'm
not their forte.
no,
I don't even have a problem with that. The problem I have with that is that it's if they're even remotely villainous, it's like no, they're not really villainous. You're just misunderstanding them. No, make them a goddamn villain.
yeah.
Yeah, just
Stop with that. Stop with that bullshit.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like that what they're
We
doing
we we
either.
It
Yeah.
we
can't be evil.
we
It's
don't
never
have
been
any
evil.
cool. We don't have any cool female villains. We don't have any cool non-white villains. We need. They always talk about representation. Well, here we can have some representation. I would love in my lifetime to see a fucking black villain that is on the level of Doctor Doom and Magneto. It's probably not going to happen. I
Just
would love
one,
to see that.
just
Yeah.
one.
Just one.
There's none,
And just one.
none.
Well, the problem is, as you know, none of them are as inherently evil as white men. You see.
Well,
No,
and
it's
let's be fair.
it's bullshit activist groups that'll come raining down on their
Let's be
ass the
fair
moment they
though,
do it.
Chester.
Yeah.
Magneto and Doctor Doom, you got a gypsy and a Jew.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm just saying it's kind of funny that that's who they picked to be like the big bads is a gypsy and a Jew.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
say,
I get it. Okay.
just say
Okay. Let's see how we go here. Norman Osborn. Oh, fuck off. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. What?
Spider-Man. No,
How
stop
the
it.
hell is Norman Osborn not? Oh, get the hell out of here! Are
Ah.
you
Why is he not
high?
just Norman Osborn? Of course, he's not underutilized, is why. But now this right here, the Chameleon, interesting
I do like
character.
really.
He's certainly underutilized, but then again, he's just a really, really good disguise artist. That's that's it. I don't even
Yeah,
think he's got the superpower of it. He's just simply good at it.
depends on the iteration, but usually he's just a good master of disguise.
Yeah, master of the skies. So you could do some interesting stuff with him for sure. Um,
Yep.
yeah, for sure. And it looks like you might see him in the Craven movie. It's
You know
possible
what I'd do with
because
him
he is the
if I
brother of Craven, right?
if
This
I
is
had the
Craven's brother.
power to like redo Chameleon a bit, I'd give him a bit of psionic power. So not only can he disguise himself just by, trickery, but he can with that psionic power, he can trick Spider-Man's spider sense and allow him to bypass it. So he
Oh
can't
well, yeah.
detect
If you want to go superpower, is it his brother or
it.
his son? I can't remember. It's a relative of Craven. So you might see this in Craven. You could see him in there.
Could see him.
Yeah, it would be a smart, clever use of it. Okay, here we go. I don't know that this could be put on the list as number one because he's not underutilized at all. There's a whole video game dedicated to him. I mean, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Well, at least the first half of that video game is dedicated to him. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that is the most significant thing Mr. Negative has been in a good long time.
Well,
That's
it's kind of a dumbass character, really, if you think about it. He's just some Chinese immigrant that got off a boat, with the powers, and I don't. Always thought it was a dumb character. It is a more modern character too. It's not an
mhm.
old time one, but I know
Which
some
again,
people like him.
this list
I'm
is all
fine
over
with
the
it.
place.
I want some more representation. We need more villainous Asians.
Fair.
Find better stories for them.
Well,
Well,
that's the problem, though, is this list is
we
all
got
over the
some
place. So he
here.
goes from, oh God, you go from the extremely obscure that most people never even heard of to one that was literally just a centerpiece of a major release. What? What is the tone of this list? It's all over. Like you're
Well,
all over the. What does underutilized mean to you, Frank?
Well,
What
the
does it
thing
mean?
is,
And he put Norman Osborn up there, Spider-Man's central villain for like the first 15 years of his existence.
right,
Like,
right. But I think the boss are bounding in the comics. He's like, I need a top 10 once a week, and that's that's what we get. So
and then he goes eat some shrooms and is like,
And yet,
fine.
no Scorpion.
No Scorpion. The one that should have been number one. I agree 100%. It should have been Scorpion because he's very underutilized, and he's a cool character. Yeah.
He's dangerous.
I mean, you could have used I mean, like you could have said Hammerhead or Silvermane. I'd have been more on board with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hammerhead for sure. Silvermane, absolutely.
Tombstone.
There's so many. There's so many, but this
Yeah.
is a weird list, and Frank's just showing his age again.
Looks that way because a lot of these are very modern.
Oh, Frank.
Comparative.
Stop with the Wikipedia, Frank.
And I
Anyway.
don't dislike Mr. Negative. I think he's an interesting design. I kind of agree with Chester. They've revamped him in the game a bit, but for the most part, he's boring as a character.
It's a
but his
boring,
design's
goofy
kind of
character. Yeah, it's I never cared for Mr. Negative or the Negative Man or whatever they call him. But anyway, all right, fine. We'll keep trying with these top tens. We'll find some that are they're entertaining usually. Of
Yeah.
how wrong they are. But nevertheless, we got to move on to a big story. This one is actually legitimate.
This is a good one. Todd McFarlane publishing DC Comics, The Flash, Black Adam, and Injustice 2.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
So they're
Grimlock.
doing one-offs, or is this?
No, he's running these comics, and I think it's going to become more. We'll get into the article here because I think this is a very interesting article. Now I do have to ask Grimlock a question though before we get into this
Go ahead.
article. Todd McFarlane has been given three so far, just three comic books. What do you think's the first thing that he did?
The first thing that he did?
Todd McFarlane, what's the first damn thing he did?
Probably made some cool art to promote it.
He made some cool toys. Yeah,
That's
what he did.
That worked too.
Because that's what he does. He makes statue toys. Yeah.
Hey, a lot of those new McFarlane DC figures are pretty good looking. I'll admit that.
But it's so cliche, dude. It's so Todd McFarlane. Of course he did. I laughed when I seen his new 7-inch line, right? And they have pictures, which we'll look at. But anyway, this article is really interesting because rumors have been going around. I haven't talked about it because rumors, right? But this is legitimate. But they've been flying around for a while that he's going to take over DC Comics in general. This is what people have been talking about of Zaslav putting McFarlane in charge of it.
He literally could not do worse.
He could
literally
not do worse.
Couldn't do worse.
Yeah. I don't know. Todd does know how to sell a comic though, dude.
He does. And he doesn't give up on things that easy either. Like
no, he doesn't.
He'll keep riding a horse until it bucks him.
Right. Because Spawn, I've definitely read some and had some fun with Spawn, but I hate how he ended that. Well, how he ended the arc. I hate it, dude. I hate what he did with it. Well, whatever.
Well, the thing is, like, I've seen like what I find interesting is that he's going with his 7-inch line, which is his bigger line, because I've seen the page punchers where they give you the full size comic and like the 3.75-inch figure.
Mm-hmm.
And the comics look good. They're reprints of some of the older stuff, but the figures themselves leave a little bit to be desired. And then,
well, we'll look at these. I think you'll like them. He does a good job with that kind of stuff. But I know what you're saying, and then he's doing the same thing here.
That's the thing with Todd, though, right? Is he knows how to market this stuff.
He does.
That's what he's. I mean, yeah, he's a great artist and everything, and he's creative, but he's a master at marketing, and that's a good thing. DC desperately needs somebody who is more than just, I don't know, an idiot when it comes to these things.
Yeah, and
so
I think
if he is being groomed to take that spot as the whatever they want to call the position, the editor, whatever, that I honestly don't think that's a bad idea. I think that's a really good idea.
Well, I think he's
Todd,
being tested, is what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we've said this for a long time. We know the comic industry and really all of publishing in general is in a state, right? So why not bring in some of these guys? They're still around. They're not that old. They
Right.
could come in and right the ship. Todd doesn't have to be there forever, but if he's there at the top and he can help right the ship and get the marketing on point and get crossover so they can generate more money. That's what he's great at. That's what the toys are about and his own things he puts out. He puts out other merch and things with it. Bringing in crossover, bringing in more and upping the the value to the customer, which means the customer will pay more money. Um, that's smart because that's what you should do. That's what you would think these comic book companies would all be doing. But guys like Todd McFarlane, and there's others too, who have that knowledge, they're a dying breed. And Todd's young enough still that if they did bring him in, and I would still probably want somebody over him, which there definitely would be, just to make sure he doesn't go too crazy. But bring somebody like him in, I really don't see much of a downside to that. I mean, if you don't like Todd's style yourself personally, that's fine. I don't think he's going to turn it into a giant vanity project. He might,
He might.
but
He might.
uh, but even still, I just don't see what the downside, especially compared to what we're getting now. I really don't see a downside here. I see a lot of upside potential, and
Well,
obviously so does DC because they're doing this.
look at all those the image revolution, right?
Yep,
And where are we? We have two of them that have survived into age, modern time
and thrive.
with names, right?
Yep.
And sure, Jim Lee is considered the quintessential amazing artist, and he is. But he's never
He's,
wanted to take a leadership role, right?
and he's terrible at it.
He's bad at it. Todd McFarlane has gone out there and carved his own world out, and he's made profit the whole way. It's not a bad choice at all. However, let's get into this article a little bit. He's being tested by Zaslav. He's given The Flash, Black Adam, and Injustice 2. And of course, immediately he made a toy line. Of course, he did. He
Smart.
calls them page punchers. The line
Yep.
of 7-inch action figures that feature with the comic books. Okay. Black Adam action figure line and comic book is already out. Okay. Injustice 2 book is coming out September 15th, and The Flash will be October 3rd. And like I said, we're going to get into looking at that. It's reported that David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery are now targeting DC Comics as the company is apparently a big failure. No shit. So according to the former Green Lantern artist Ethan Van Sciver, Ethan gets a mention. Aw. Van
Aw.
Sciver is predicting that Todd McFarlane will take over DC Comics, where possibly McFarlane will license DC Comics from Warner Brothers Discovery. It could go either way. Although I think Zaslav would rather have a person helming it than to lease it out. We'll see. DC used to have its own action figure company, DC Direct, but that was kiboshed. And now McFarlane Toys has the license for DC Nation figures, and he's doing a damn fine job. So maybe Todd McFarlane will also eventually publish all DC Comics. And rumors have offered the Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman might be in line to take over. Well, he was trying to buy it, as
Yes.
was Diamond Publishing Guy. They were trying to buy it. But with Zaslav and Discovery coming in, I think things have shifted gears. I don't know that they are selling, but we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, well, they have. I've heard this before. I just haven't talked about it because it was rumor and I was questioning it. But not anymore because it's happening, and we'll see how he does, and that will, of course, dictate what Zaslav does. Anyway, these are called page punchers, and it's a comic book and comes with an action figure, just like Grimlock was talking about. And you can pre-order now. So let's take a look here. So here's the Flash, and the comic is noisy. The cover is kind of noisy, but that toy looks good though.
Yeah.
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 Doesn't suck. He does look a little bit like Turbo Man, like somebody said in the chat.
Yeah, a
from the,
little bit. A little bit
Inkball
like
way.
Turbo Man. Yeah.
But that's all right. That's all right. I don't hate it. I don't hate the design at all. I think
No.
it looks good.
No, I think that cover is a bit noisy though. But anyway, then we also have the Atom here, which is coming out of that same book. It's like a duo team up story, I guess. That's an
Yeah.
interesting looking figure though. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah. Pretty good.
It's kind
Solid.
of cool.
It's very,
Yeah.
very solid, which Todd does well.
And these are 7 inchers too, so they're pretty big, dude.
Yeah.
It's like the G.I. Joes,
that's
you know.
Yeah, that's much bigger than the 3.75s that they currently have in that series.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty cool. We got Captain Cold.
Captain Cold, the
That's
man
not bad at
himself.
all. Look at
Okay, that
that, dude. I like that.
That's sick.
yeah.
That looks sick. Looks real good.
That's
In
neat.
fact, that looks better than on the cover.
It does. It
Like
looks
that
way better.
looks.
Yeah, yeah. That is neat. All
Yeah, that's
right.
pretty good.
We got Heat Wave.
Oh,
So this is just what's coming out of the Flash book here. Uh, yeah, this is the redesigned Heat Wave. I kind of preferred the old design, but it's not horrible.
yeah. He looks like a Marine from, or a not a Marine, but a Brotherhood of Steel from Fallout, a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, yeah.
But have you noticed one thing about all of them so far?
They're cool.
Very well, not just that, very bright, very colorful, something that would immediately catch somebody's eye
Yeah,
sitting on
Yeah,
the shelf.
as it should.
and they're also very simple designs, which is smart.
Yes.
They're not. There's not too busy. A lot of the stuff, like the cover there, a lot of the stuff they do nowadays is way too much. The costumes look like
Uh-huh.
way too much, or there's just too much going on, and it
So
it actually distracts you. You did in a bad way. It doesn't get your attention. It makes you almost look away from it.
it's true. Well, are you trying to tell me that Rose Tico and her rice bag would look appealing? Excuse me.
Uh, no,
Yeah.
no, it did not.
Okay. Oh well. Yeah, they are colorful, and that is a good thing too, because you're trying to sell these. Of course, adults buy them too, but this is definitely being marketed toward kids as well, right?
Right.
Because an adult is more than likely going to lean toward a statuette, like Sideshow Collectibles or something like that, and less toward this. Whereas this, I mean, if I was a little kid and we had 7-inch versions of these, dude, I would fucking eat that up.
Yeah.
I would have
Pretty good.
loved that, man, as a kid. Ooh, Green
Pretty good.
Arrow. Yeah, pretty good. Continuing on here. Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
That's excellent, dude. Look at that. That's
It
actually
is.
really good.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I much prefer the classic Green Arrow like that with the very much Robin Hood looking hat. I like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what he is. He's modern Robin Hood.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, these things look great, dude. Batman, of course.
The Bat. Of course, Todd
Hmm.
loves him. The Bat. Um, I don't know if I like that one though.
No,
I
I
don't know
don't
what
like
it
that
is.
one. Yeah, it's the
No,
armor.
especially after seeing the Arkham City one. The Arkham City one is way
Yeah.
better.
I think it's just the armor design. Yeah, I think you're right,
Yeah.
Chester. I like the cape isn't too
Mm,
bad, but the armor design is. He looks kind of like a stormtrooper. I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, the
nah,
cape's
this isn't
great.
how
Yeah,
it
it's the
works.
armor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Oh, Constantine. Uh-oh.
Uh oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh oh.
Uh-oh. All right.
See,
that
just
All
looks
right.
really good.
All right.
just
Yeah.
That
simple.
looks really
I
good.
love it. I love it. It does look
I
good.
think that's.
I
I
like
think
that
that'd be the
cover
one.
too.
I think that's going to be the one I go after. Actually.
I like that whole cover. I like everything about that cover. That's a good cover.
It is a great cover. Yeah, that's true. But and Constantine, they don't that talk about underutilized. I mean, they keep
Oh,
throwing Constantine at us, but they don't really give us Constantine, right? And as badass as he actually is. But that is a great looking figure, though. I mean, look at that, dude. Is that a mixed medium? No, it
I
can't
can.
be. It can't be. But anyway, okay. Oh, Superman. Uh-oh. Okay.
Oh. This could be it. This
This
is it. Let's
guy.
see. Oh, and he's got the pants. My man.
I got the
I
pants.
don't know
I don't
about that
like the
face
face
though.
though.
Yeah, that face is a
I'm.
little
I'm
weird.
more into that. That now. This is the first time I'm going to say this so far in this series. That blue is dull.
It
Yeah,
is
I
that's
would have
very
liked the
dull,
more. I would
and
have liked the brighter blue for.
I don't like the
I know
gay
it's. I know it's
Asian
kind of. I know
Superman
it's.
face.
I know it's kind of matching. The cover there, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit of a
Yeah, but look at the
brighter
face. It's
blue.
a gay Asian Superman face. What?
he does have a weird face.
I don't like that at all, dude. I don't like that at all. Another Batman.
Go back from
Oh,
that
that's
book.
much better. That's
That's
much
much
better.
better.
Dude, are
Yeah,
these
that's
Yeah.
mixed medium? No,
they might be.
no. I'm almost feeling like some of these capes and stuff are cloth or leather. But
They could
no,
be.
they can't be because that would jack the price up a lot, dude.
Yeah, I agree with Adrian. That face looks much more like Bizarro. That's Superman's face. It's just raw.
Yeah.
It's not soft.
Bizarro looks gay Asian. He's
Well,
geometric.
compared to Superman, he does.
Okay, fine. This better be badass. This better be
All right,
badass.
watch. You just watch.
No, I
Ooh.
don't like
Whoa.
it. I don't
I was
like
not
it.
expecting that.
I don't like it.
What is happening here?
Damn
Mm,
it.
He has got on some gear. Okay.
Way too much gear. He's gray haired. I don't like it.
don't
I
know-
like the
I don't know how I
clean,
feel
slick.
about armored. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I feel about armored Black Adam. I don't know if I like that.
I don't hate it. I wish the face was a little bit more menacing looking.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, it's
like,
true. But
like
you know,
he looks angry, but it doesn't look menacing.
no,
See, in
you're
the
right.
cover
He
there,
looks
he looks
constipated.
far better in the
Mhm.
cover.
He does.
I don't know. I don't know if it just doesn't translate well into the picture, or I don't know.
And
Well-
and again, I would say some of the armor pieces, like the way it looks, especially when you got the bright gold on the lightning bolt, and I guess the two buttons holding the cape, and then the rest of it's kind of like the cape is kind of a dull gold.
Tattered. Yeah, no, I don't like this.
No,
at
I don't
all.
mind. I don't mind the tattered cape, but like the way it's going from like bright to dull, I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. I don't like it.
Like,
And the simple fact of the matter is, they just keep over layering Black Adam anyway. Same with Shazam. They
So
made
exact-
it too
the
complicated.
exact opposite. The exact
Yeah.
opposite of the other ones up above, where they were simple.
Yeah,
This
Yes.
is too much.
it's too much.
and bright.
And you notice, as with this right here in the comic, that what they're doing now, as well as the trailer we saw with Dwayne Johnson, they're having him be an electricity shooter. That is not
Yeah.
Black Adam. He can do, he can do the Shazam thing just like Captain Marvel can do. But he's not an energy blaster. What are you talking about? I don't know where the hell they've changed him.
He likes to punch things with his fists.
Yeah, he doesn't shoot electricity. That's not his thing. But whatever, and that's it. So I hate that. This is
Started
fine.
off
that
pretty
Batman.
good.
This
I
is
like that
military Batman. That's kind of okay.
Batman's good.
No,
I like the
go
cover.
away. Go away. Yes,
All
epic.
covered.
Nah.
So I'd have to
Nah,
say
it's
my top three is Constantine, Adam, and Flash.
Oh
Out
well,
of this
okay.
group.
Well, you can be wrong. But
I'm saying I'm not saying it's terms as who's the best. I'm just saying if you look
what
at
you
their
like,
figures,
yeah. I think Green
in
Arrow's great.
terms of the figures, which yeah, but to me they're the three that would jump off. Like if you had a kid walking through, I mean, Batman sells himself, but that first Batman is way too busy. I would have
It is.
liked Arrow if you had like a little, like I said, a little bit more colorful green. Like I'm not.
I kind of like
It's a bit too dark. Like I know. I like his look is fine, but
this actually looks
think
cool.
yeah,
Heatwave looks
I
cool.
like
mean,
the colors on.
I'd like to see some more green on Green Arrow.
Well, fine. The
I
Mr. Freeze
think
looks
that's
great.
I think that, or Captain Cold. I think that's
Captain
the best
Cold,
one.
Captain
sorry.
Cold,
Yeah,
Being
Captain
honest.
Cold, yeah.
I love that one. That's
Yeah, that's
sexy.
cool.
That's
This
very
one's
cool.
slick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slick, simple, gets the
Yeah.
point across, and
This
then my
is
boy Flash
okay.
looking like Turbo Man.
Yeah. But no, overall not bad though. We've certainly seen
Where's
worse.
Gorilla Grodd? What's going on?
Yeah, where's
see a
Gorilla
gorilla face.
Grodd? Dude, I'd buy
Why
that.
don't he get a figure?
Well, I wanted the 10-inch, Gorilla Grodd. That's what I want.
Yeah, Adrian. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it started off really bright, really colorful. Something like if you had your kid and you're walking through the toy aisle, like if Batman and Superman's not there, kids usually gravitate to bright and colorful.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I just look at those top three and I'm like, that would catch them.
Here's the problem we're gonna have with Todd if they do give him the book, if I can use a wrestling term, is he likes his dark.
He does.
So if we want bright, colorful Superman, we're probably not getting that from Todd.
Yeah, but keep in mind, what they're rumoring, the conversation is that putting him in charge of DC Comics, not
Yes.
as the creator of DC
Well,
Comics.
His other he's done other Superman figures where it's more bright and colorful than this, which is why I'm kind of surprised he went with such a dull, Superman.
Yeah, that was weird coloring on that. No, Todd
Oh,
has put out some amazing toys. He really has.
dude. They
Yes.
didn't even show this in the article. I'm about to post this in the chat, Chester. I think you would appreciate.
Uh-oh.
You Flash. I think you Flash fans would appreciate this one here.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Look at this glorious hooker here.
I don't know why, but Ben says this just isn't true whatsoever, responding to Thundero.
Yeah.
I don't know. Your Elon Musk comment? I don't know what he's doing.
Apparently,
Ooh, the Gorilla Grodd. You found Gorilla Grodd. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, look at that.
yeah, that don't suck. That don't suck at all.
It's a little bit noisy, but yeah, Gorilla Grodd would be fun. And those thick-armed, thick-leg type of characters, they look so much better in the toy form
See,
anyway.
Chester, they finally represented you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is exactly what this is me. It is.
It's him on a Monday, right there. He's like,
Yeah.
"Yep, there we go."
Well, the thing it sucks though is because when I have to go buy shirts and stuff like that, unless I get something tailor made, which is ridiculously obtuse and expensive, right? To be able to fit my shoulders and chest, the linebacker width I picked up when I was a kid.
Yeah.
When it comes down to my abdomen, I can always pull the shirt out like a foot, right? Because
Right.
in order
Yeah.
to get over the shoulders and stuff, it's a bigger size, but it doesn't ever fit my abdomen. I mean, I can always pull it way out. It's so huge in the abdomen, but I have to do that just in order to get over the shoulders. It's
And that
ridiculous.
and the Batman that they had by comparison, he just put up. I just posted the Arkham City one.
Uh-huh.
The Arkham City one is just way better.
Let me go check it out. Bring it up. Oh yeah, that is better. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is better.
Now that's a Batman.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Huh. All right. Well, it's interesting to see where it's going. It's definitely interesting. And we'll see if he's successful with this and makes money. And that's what Zaslav's looking for. We might see him get involved with DC directly. And I
Yeah,
guess he's interested.
yeah, because for a long time DC wasn't making money on their toys either. That's
Yeah,
why
well,
they stopped the direct for a
right.
while.
Same with Marvel as well. They've been doing it as well. IDW and stuff. But yeah, no, these comic book companies are in bad shape. They really are. And the good thing is one thing that Marvel Comics doesn't have is a Zaslav, and he is not neglecting any aspect of Warner Brothers. He's looking at
Yeah.
all of it, obvious, clearly, because I really imagined it would be months or a year or more before we heard anything about DC Comics from him. Because the movies, yeah, sure, he's going to get on that immediately, but the comic division. So this is a much quicker move, and this has been in work in the play for a while. This isn't something that just happened yesterday, right? All that
Yeah.
design and all that creation. This is what 6 months of work, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see how it's going. Anyway, let's get to our last story of today, and it's a doozy.
Oh.
Indiana Jones 5. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is adventurous femme fatale, reveals John Williams. Oh God.
Okay, now Phoebe Waller-Bridge herself is an ugly, hateful feminist. We all agree?
No, never. Couldn't be.
And I knew she was in the movie, and she's also involved in the writing of the script as well. Keep that in mind. But I have very interesting, sad news. She is the new Indiana Jones.
Of course she is.
That's your new Indiana Jones. She's not just in the movie; she is the future of the franchise. And keep in mind, this is Kathleen
The death of
Kennedy's.
the franchise.
Well, yeah, it will be. This is Kathleen Kennedy's baby. She's still over there, and this is thing they're kind of letting her do her thing on this. They've removed her from everything else, but they've let her do her thing. This is her baby. So this is all Kathleen Kennedy and her absolute rabid descent into feminism. But the interesting thing, and I'm not surprised, none of us are. But the thing I find is interesting is she is the new Indiana Jones, but she's an adventurous femme fatale. Okay, so Indiana Jones or whatever her character's name is, being adventurous, but sure, but a femme fatale for an Indiana Jones replacement? What? I mean, femme
Dumb.
fatale, by its definition, says that it's a woman that it is the ultimate devastation of a man to get involved with. That's what a femme fatale is. She destroys men. That's what the whole point of
Yeah.
it is. So, but that's
Well,
your
also,
hero? What?
well, also, Femme Fatale has a level of attractiveness that this woman clearly does
Well,
not
no,
have.
but these days, with that woke thinking, you can't
She
have
she
pretty.
looks like a server at a Polish coffee house.
Yeah, no, she's not pretty, and she hadn't been. But it's a very interesting take for me. That okay, you're excuse me, gender swapping Indiana Jones. All right, no surprise. But the fact that she's a femme fatale, that that is a weird choice for your hero, because a femme fatale is not a good thing. That is a villain, but yet it's your hero, huh? And they even have a scene that because Williams has seen cuts from the movie, obviously, and John Williams is awesome. I have nothing to say about him. But he's clearly seen scenes from the movie, and if you look at his conversations here, and there are scenes where she's dressed up just like Indy. They got her in the same damn costume as Indiana Jones. Unbelievable, dude. This is the death of Indiana Jones, of course. To be fair, the last movie killed it anyway. And her
Yes.
name is Helena, so I guess Helena Jones, I suppose. Yeah, the last movie killed it anyway. This movie's just going to put that final nail in the coffin. No one is going to like this. Get Gina Carano in the movie, dude. You guys heard yesterday that Twitter completely removed Gina Carano's Twitter account.
Hmm.
They shut it down for no reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because she's in a movie that's about Hunter Biden. That's why. Everybody who's in that movie, their accounts got nuked.
Yeah. No, and you're right, Ben. It is really dumb. And Ben says it's really dumb too, because there's a super fucking easy answer to replace Indy with a rave swap that actually makes sense on the lore. Yep. No, they could have done several things. This is just dumb. But I mean, however they swap it and putting a female in, because the torch does need to be passed. We do need, if we're going to have Indiana Jones, we need to have a legacy, because Harrison's done, right? You
I'd
either
say,
How about they just let it
yeah,
go?
just let
yeah,
it
Like
go.
don't.
Uh,
they
Yeah.
just
You know what
the
they should
last
have done? They
movie.
should have made a good Uncharted movie, and they could have had Nathan Drake for 15 years. That's what they should have done.
they should have done that. You're right.
Yes.
And with Nathan Fillion, you dumbasses. But that's not my
Could make a
problem.
good Tomb Raider movie, and we could have had a decent Lara Croft again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You
that's
know.
unfortunate with the little girl they chose to do that, because that could have been fun. But my point is, I don't actually have a problem with a female legacy version for Indiana Jones. That's not even the issue. It's what's getting me is this lady, because I don't like this lady, for one, and two. But the whole femme fatale thing, that is not a hero.
Correct.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%, Ben. If I'm going to legacy a character in Indiana Jones, it's got to be Short Round. You are 100% correct. And that would be fun to bring Short Round back after all this time and make him the new Indiana Jones. That would be awesome, dude.
Chester, he plays the husband in that movie you hate. The
Who
Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's him.
is it?
He's her husband. Yeah.
Is it that feckless man?
Yeah.
But hey, I'm glad he's got money, making some money. But it doesn't have to be him. It doesn't have to be that actor. It could be another person. He turned into a super handsome, dashing Asian, right? We go get someone else. But that movie, you guys just don't understand it, because you don't understand the Chinese. I'm telling you, if you spoke the language, you would have hated that movie. It's just typical dumbass soap opera fucking Hong Kong shit. Uh, It's so dumb, dude.
How
Um,
did you watch the whole movie?
my wife and I couldn't get it. Like we couldn't even get 30 minutes in. It was so dumb.
it's, it's so not that, bro. I promise you.
No
There's
way.
such a twist
We
in the middle of it.
we
I
couldn't
promise.
bear it. We couldn't bear it because the problem is, my wife and I, we understand Chinese, right? My wife is absolute perfect Chinese speaker. I mean, she's way better than I am. My ear is better than my speaking ability, right? Although I can get by, I could live in China and survive. But my ear is always your ear is always better, right? But
Yep.
yeah, so we've seen that crap so much. We're oh my god, we both of us were just rolling our eyes. It's ridiculous because we watched it in Chinese. It was in we watched it in Chinese, right?
Uh-huh.
And I don't know for you guys, what did they subtitle it?
No, what they do is part of it's in Chinese and part of it's in English. Like
Okay,
they're
so they
supposed to be Chinese immigrants, so they
I
bounce
see.
back and forth between the two.
But no, we just watched it. And yeah, there was some English every now and then. You're right.
Yep.
But my point is that is so Hong Kong soap opera crap. It just is, and it's like, oh my god, how annoying. Although
I'm
I'm glad.
telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's not. I get why. I do understand why you're saying that, but it becomes so much more than that. Genuinely, it's
I
one of
get
these
it.
movies that changes in about the midway through, about a third of the way through, right about the time you quit is right when it really like switches into a whole nother thing, a
Yeah,
whole
no,
nother
I,
beast.
I kind of got a feel it was like Jackie Chan's Tuxedo. It was that kind of take, or Jet Li's The One.
It's
Uh,
close to the one, yeah.
yeah. Yes, soap opera, Ben. Soap opera. Yes. Yeah.
He didn't see the good stuff because I was with you. The first part of it, I was like, okay, this has to be going somewhere because it was kind of just like the travails of these Chinese immigrants and their family and the gay daughter and blah 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 blah. And I was like, all right, I'm losing interest. But then it just totally flips on its head and gets crazy. It really does.
I'm also just my wife as well. We're just so over Michelle Yao. We're just so over her. Although I didn't know that was short run. I'm happy as hell that he's still getting work. That's awesome.
Well,
That is
that's the
awesome.
first real work he's gotten in since indie, as far as or since like the '80s.
Wow.
Um, yeah, he's been plugging away and just hasn't. He was typecast for so long
Well,
as
he's such a
Liu
boring
Kang.
looking man is the problem.
Yeah.
They should have made him Chang-Chi.
He's see. This is how I know. That's why I knew you didn't get very far because he's not in that movie at all. He totally isn't. Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like I said, it's really because you got to keep in mind my wife and I, we when we first met, we
Yeah,
met in Taiwan, right?
yeah.
I was touring with the Hard Rock Cafe where and I had done like a double tour, and after we were done, I really liked Taiwan, and I had money in my pocket, so I went to go just hang out in Taiwan, and that's
Hmm.
where I met my wife, and she was studying at the Mandarin University, doing like grad stuff over there. But anyway, and we lived we met, we hooked up, we ended up getting an apartment together, and we lived together for a long time in Taiwan, right? And
Hmm.
on the TV every day in Taiwan, you have all day long, you have all these kind of Taiwanese drama, right? They didn't have
Yeah.
Western shit. They just have the Taiwanese drama, and and a lot of it's either Taiwan made or Hong Kong made, not China. Fuck China, right? I get that. But it's so, oh my God, it just gave us flashbacks to the absolute torture of Taiwanese TV. Oh my God, dude.
Oh man. It's just funny. And the reason it's so funny is because that movie takes such a crazy left turn. My wife, by the way, in fairness, my wife couldn't get through it either. She didn't like it. The same problem. The first third of that movie, it just doesn't really grab you. But just because I had so many people telling me just keep watching it, trust me, it gets crazy. I did, and they were right. But that first bit of that movie, it's just not. It's kind of like you said in a way. It's kind of boring soap opera, the put upon middle aged lady, blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, this
No,
this definitely goes somewhere,
all right.
and
So
eventually it does.
there you go. That tells me that they didn't translate well to you because the put upon Chinese lady, that is not what is going on. She is sarcastic bitch, dude. She's horrible. She's horrible because you guys don't understand the intonation. You don't understand the inflection of how it's being said, right? All
Yes,
or you're just reading a subtitle. You get and that's what the problems with foreign films. You often lose it. You don't understand the tone. She's a nasty, nasty thing in that movie, dude. That kept pushing us off too, right? Because like, oh Jesus, you got this wonderful, supportive man, and she's just horrible. She can't
that's
stand
Chester.
him.
I'm telling
She
you, that's
hates
why
him.
you've got to keep watching that movie. I promise you, that pays off. That's why I
Ben
like that movie, 'cause it
Ben
pays it off.
says there's lesbian sausage fingers. I ain't looking at it.
There is lesbian sausage fingers. It's a little weird. It's a lot weird, but it also pays off. It's one of the reason, like, okay, like with Top Gun Maverick, the reason I like that movie so much is because it pays itself off. It sets things up and then pays them off. This movie does it. It does it in a very esoteric way. Very crazy shit happens, but if it sets something up, it pays it off, which is something
Ah,
that a lot of movies don't do anymore. They throw things out there and then you just never they never get reconciled throughout the movie. Whereas this one
it
does.
curled my pubes. Okay. Yeah, and it's not just me. My wife was the one that said shut it off. She's the one that said, "Nah, that's enough of that." I'm like, oh, I agree.
That's crazy. Your sweet wife, the loving, sweet Mrs. Busby herself, said, "Nope, I can't stand this bitch. That's
Well,
enough of her."
she of course didn't use vulgarity, but no, and I think part of it is just Michelle Yeoh herself because you got to understand, uh, this is another side of it which Westerners wouldn't understand. Michelle Yeoh got her break from Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan saw
Correct.
her, thought she was cool. She was great at the orchestrated, choreographed movement, and he gave her a shot, and he made her career. And then what did she do? Went on and bashed Jackie Chan.
Yep.
Saying bad things because she's on this feminist kick long before that's why she got in those Western movies, guys, is because she was even before that on that feminist bash. And they're like, "Ooh, we got an Asian here," and they pulled her in. That's what happened, right? And
Mhm.
she just constantly bashing Jackie Chan, and not even for a good reason. If he had done something wrong to her, okay, fine. I mean, we know that Jackie's a little bit of a ladies' man, right? We know that, but that's
Mhm.
not what she's bitching about. She's just bitching about the man himself, just men, right? And this
Man.
irritated the shit out of my wife and pretty much all women in Asia, because Jackie, you don't mess with that. That's a sacred cow, dude. You do not mess with
Yeah.
Jackie Chan, right?
Well, you
He
shouldn't in general because he'll probably kick you in the face.
Well, I'm
But
just saying, you don't browbeat Jackie Chan just because he's male. If you have a good reason to complain about Jackie Chan, that's fine. But that's not what she did, right? And so that's another layer as far as my wife is concerned. I care less about that. But I just, oh my God, it was freaking brain numbing. I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
oh,
Um,
oh man, I'm telling you, it's one of those movies you gotta let it burn. You gotta let it simmer because it does pay off. Like everything you said, how he hit what's his name, Short Round is a feckless kind of a weak man. Well, not
but
even
he's
kind of. He
also
is
a
a weak.
beautiful man, though.
Yes, he is the hero of the movie, Chester. That's what I'm saying. You didn't let it play out.
Oh, and they said Jackie was supposed to do it. They replaced him with Yao. Interesting. Um,
The husband is the hero of the movie.
yeah, no, I could see it was going that way. But I just, oh my God, you don't understand. It's so Hong Kong drama. It's just so dripping in it. And then they bring the Chinese guy who's been in a ton of movies, of course, Big Trouble in Little
Yep.
China, my favorite. But even he's boring. It's like, oh fuck, dude.
Oh, bro, but he's one of the best characters. Ah, you just don't know what you've missed, my friend.
Yeah, well, there's no way
Because
I'm convincing my wife to go back to it. I guarantee you that.
because like I said, yes, at the start he's basically just your boring. He's your old conservative grandpa, whatever the hell, right? The old man, out of touch man, blah blah blah, and he's all very much that. But again, the story goes into crazy places, and the actor in that character takes on a totally different face by the end of it, and it's quite good. In
Well,
fact,
he's a fun actor. Let's be fair. He's in a lot of stuff, anywhere from a C level to A level. But he is a
yep.
fun actor. And Ben is telling me that come on, how many woke movies do Thunder and I agree on? See, Ben is not convincing me.
The only woke thing in it is the gay daughter. Well, other than that, it's just a family movie with ridiculous nonsense that happens all around it. But that's the most woke part about it. If I'm unless I'm completely forgetting something, but other than that, she's the lesbian daughter and the whole, the older generation won't accept my lesbianness, whatever.
Well, why
But
should they?
that's a complete side plot to what's really going on here. It's really just character building for that character. The problems that character has is less about that and more about the bitch of a mother that you just talked about
Yeah,
and
she's really
where it
bad,
goes
dude.
from there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
and
really
she
bad.
is, and that's the point of the movie.
Okay,
That's
I
the
get
whole
it. I get it.
emotional
I get it.
crux.
Because they were selling that hardcore of how much of a bitch
Yeah.
she was. But and the whole lesbian thing, that's another thing that would push off an Asian mother like my wife, because
Yep.
you're they're displaying this as that they have one kid. It's their only child, right?
Yes.
And then she's a lesbian. Of course, they're not happy about it, and the mother would be the least happy about it because she's not going to get grandchildren out of it. Because I get, Western women could be like this too, but Asian women, Oriental women, dude, you better damn well produce a child. I will cut you. No, see, I'm not kidding, dude. The Oriental ladies are very serious about that shit, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Is
a
your
matter of
wife
fact,
serious about it? Does she get on your daughter about it?
oh well, recently she's been every encounter is getting worse. Yeah,
Oh
uh,
no.
yeah. It is because my daughter is getting to that mid. She's at that mid 20 age, where of course we were already married, but she's getting toward the end of that potential, right? And my
Yeah.
wife is, and my daughter just doesn't want to have it, right? But the problem with my daughter is there are a lot of great things about her. She's very smart. She's super hardworking, right? So there's a
Mhm.
lot of good things you can say about her, but she hasn't grown up yet, right?
Mm.
She's still a kid in regards to she doesn't like people, which I get. I understand that, but the problem is the world is full of them. So you
There's
have
a
to
lot of
kind
them.
of, yeah, there's a lot of them. So you kind of have to get to a level of how you can interact with them.
Right.
And and the problem she has is she's too headstrong, which once again, she gets all this from me, right? I understand. She does. Um,
Whoa.
she does. But
No. You're a
but
wilting flower,
well,
Chester, not you.
the thing is though, I went through so much hard times when I was young that I learned from it. She's pampered. Let's be fair. And she hasn't learned yet. And she's so hard-headed that it's her way or the highway, right?
Mm.
And she doesn't understand that, well, that's not reality.
She sounds like a Western woman, Chester. How'd that happen?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a mix because she has other things that are very Asian about her. But it's really she simply hasn't grown up yet. And whereas my
Yeah.
son is 2 years younger than her, but he's way more mature. Um,
Mm.
and he takes 100% responsibility for everything he does.
That's
And
good.
so and like I said, I complain. I probably make little off comments about my daughter here and there, but there's a lot of good things about her. I'm very proud of many of the things she does, but
Yeah.
it's just this immature stubbornness. And I'm a little more patient with it than my wife has become because it's I'm telling you that the Asian woman will cut you, man. You better
Which
pop a baby up.
Which is funny because she seems like such an absolute sweetheart, your wife. Like the few times I've heard her, the one time I talked to her,
Yeah.
she just seems like a genuine drop of golden sun. I say that
Oh,
with
sh no.
no sarcasm.
No, no, she's a super nice lady. She's very sweet. She's way more compassionate than I am,
Yeah.
in regards to things like that. Now, she's a super nice lady, until you press that button, right?
Mhm.
And there's not many buttons. There's only a couple of them. But one of those is her daughter not being married with a child. That's one of them. Uh, So, I'm kind of just sitting back. My son and I, we kind of just lean back on the couch when those conversations start because usually the kids come home at least once a year and they come at the same
Yeah.
time because Japan, you don't take 2 weeks of vacation. There is set vacations in Japan, right? And
Right.
so everyone's home at the same time. We just had them here not too long ago, and we had one of those conversations. And my son and I, literally sitting on the couch, and we just kind of lean back into the nice Italian leather, quiet. We know. We just look at each other,
Yep.
and off to the races they went. So
And here it comes.
here it comes. It is a big ass button, Adrian. Yes, it is. But that's another thing that would have, she didn't mention that directly, but I know that would irk her. Asian women, I think, would be. I know it's weird because you Asians tend to dote on their boys more than their girls.
Mm.
But an Asian woman would be far more irritated with a lesbian daughter than a gay son. It's weird, but it's true.
It's interesting.
They just have a lot more expectations of the daughter, I guess. I don't know what. It's a very Asian thing because Western parents, it's either they accept it or they don't, no matter what whether it's a boy or a girl, right? Here in Asia, it certainly leans that way, and it is universal, whether you're being Korea or Japan or China or what have you. The only people here that don't have any issues are the Thai, Cambodians. That Southeast Asians, their take on those things, they don't care. They are the only place in the world, other than some like primitive tribes that I know of, that have literally have three genders, and they've always had it. It's not a new thing.
Mm.
Because you see some primitive tribes will have the third gender aspect, but it's rare. But Thailand specifically has three genders. It literally does. And if you go to Thailand and you're offended by a katoi, saying, flirting with you or something as a man, and you get angry, you're going to find a lot of trouble. Don't do that. Do not do that,
Mm.
because in their society you are free to make sexual choices. There's no pressure. So they literally have male, female, and katoi, which is the transgender. It's a part of their culture, but they're unique, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the Orientals don't play that. So
Interesting.
yeah. But anyway, I don't think you've convinced me there, Ben. Thank you. But anyway, Ethereal Dragon says, I can see Chester is what Chester's wife chasing him around the house with a sword if he pisses her off. No, no, she's not like that at all. She's not that kind of angry. She's not violent. Although there have been a few moments where she's gotten pissed, because I never bring violence to a female anyway. I was raised very strictly that way.
Mm.
And so there's never been any violence come out of me whatsoever. But there's been a few points she's got mad. I remember one time she was so pissed, she kicked the fan at me. And then there was another one where she's so pissed that she just started banging the knife on the counter, and it broke and the piece landed like a foot in front of me. Remember that?
Oh.
Yeah. But let's see. Yeah, that's it. So in the 27 years I've been married, she's been angry. Well, almost 28. She's been angry twice.
Oh, that must be nice. Jeez.
Yeah. And one of the first one with a fan being kicked at me, I was definitely my fault. I was being an ass. The second one,
No.
yeah, no, that was definitely me. But the second one, and they're separated by like 15 years or something, the two anger moments. But the other one, she was being silly. So, we each have one. There you go. So,
Yeah.
but no, she's not like that. She's a super sweet lady. She's she's super compassionate. She's the type where when someone is hurt, where everyone else is standing around saying, "Oh, you okay?" She runs to get water and cloths and bandages. That's her,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, she's a real, and Ben can attest. He knows my wife well. She's a very very nice lady, but she's also not, as you said, a wilting flower. She's not that at all. She's a strong, woman. She's a woman, and that's the thing. I know this is shifting gears slightly, but we hear a lot of complaint coming out of the West of because a lot of Western men are going overseas for wives, right?
Yep.
And of course, the response you get out of the Westernized women is that, oh, you just want a subservient woman, and it's like, why would
Kinda.
any? Well, but not though. It's a misunderstanding of the terminology. No man
Right.
wants a subservient woman. That's boring. No man wants that. The reason they go overseas is because they're actual women. They're real women who take responsibility for themselves, who are actual
Yep.
wives, who are your partners, who are actual mothers, who take responsibility for being a mother. That's why they do that, because they're actual women. There's nothing about subservience. What the hell? What man actually wants a subservient woman beyond a guy that has a collection harem or something? No
Yeah.
man
I'd
wants
like a
that
I'd
shit.
like a nice maid.
They've turned the word submissive into all kinds of demonized ideas. They have taught Western women that the idea of her even remotely working with her man is her barefoot in the kitchen in shackles, pregnant, making sandwiches.
It's so stupid, dude. It's so stupid.
It's insanely stupid, but
Yeah.
hey, free country. You can believe whatever you want,
Of
even if it's
course.
complete
And
bullshit.
that's why more and more men are going find foreign brides because, they need a partner. That's what you need as a man, a partner, right?
Yeah,
And
Help.
everything I hear come out of Western women these days is all about the economics of being married.
Yeah.
What have you done for me lately? Where's my shopping money? It's like,
No, I'm not
what are you
saying a
talking
man
about?
shouldn't be, providing. He should obviously. But if that's your first concern, then you don't want a man. You want a bank account.
You want a
That's what
wallet.
you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so many countries outside of the West, and I mean, Western Europe, America, Canada, the West, right? So many of those countries here in Asia, Russia, for instance, many places like that, and you probably wouldn't expect it out of Russia. The people who handle the money in the house are the women. And it's
Yep.
super smart thing to do, dude, because you
Well,
put responsibility on them,
yes. Well,
right?
it used to be the way in the West. I mean, it still kind of is, but like back in the day, that's one of the reasons why the feminist arguments are kind of nonsense. Um, because a, a family back in the day, the man was kind of in charge, but the woman controlled the house. She ran that house. She made sure the finances were in order, things like this, especially considering way back in the day, if they had any kind of estate or any kind of manor or anything, the man often wasn't there. He had to either be out,
They're busy.
doing other
Yeah.
things, busy doing work or at war. So somebody had to run the place. Somebody
Mhm.
had to keep, things moving, and that would fall to the mama bear.
Yeah.
Um, these women, this idea that these women, like, if you go read the journals of frontier people, especially frontier women, these were bad bitches.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of people
Very
nowadays use
capable.
that term.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. They don't even understand what that term is. These women could do just about anything a man could do. Maybe not quite as well, simply because men are physically stronger,
Well, it
but
depended
better
on
than
the
most men
activity.
nowadays
Yeah,
could.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they could at least
Well,
get the
no,
job done.
because they were a team. They were a
Yes.
family. They were husband and wife,
Yep.
for sure. And you don't see that these days, but that is a problem. But I mean, the problem is if you are a man and you're controlling the finances in the house, and you give your money, your wife money for shopping and stuff, you're basically it's an allowance. You're treating her like a child.
Yep.
Whereas most of the world, most places in the world, the women actually run the finances of the family, and this gives them responsibility over it. They must be responsible because if there's not enough money to pay that gas bill this month or have food on the table, that's your fault. You
Right.
screwed it up. You didn't spend the money properly because we have budgeted. It has been budgeted and you screwed it up. Now, if you're a guy and you're not providing enough funds, well, get on that, right?
Yeah.
But that's a different conversation. If there are enough funds to live whatever level you're at, then you put responsibility and the onus on her. And that is super clever, dude. That is very smart. These non-Western men are smarter
When it
because
comes to
they
that
have
stuff,
way more peace in their life, dude.
I think I think you said it earlier, right? That you're supposed to help each other. And
Yeah,
there's a term, there's an old term, I think it's a biblical term, but I like it. It's called a helpmeet. So the woman, your wife, is supposed to be a helpmeet for you. She is supposed to meet you in the place where you need help.
yeah.
That's what that means. So there's men like to, we have a lot of bravado. We can do anything. No, we can't. There's a lot of things we simply cannot do, whether it's just because we don't have the time to do them, and that is where you need a good wife. A good wife can
Yeah.
handle that business for you. Most men don't have the time. At least nowadays, a lot of this has changed because of the marketplace and blah blah blah. But especially in a traditional situation, men simply don't have the time to constantly rear their children. So that's why the woman did it,
Well, but
because
they're
she
also
had.
better at it. They're just better at it.
And exactly,
Yeah.
and that was my next point. They're typically better at it on a day-to-day basis. The dad's real good at being the scary force
Yeah.
when they really do something dumb. Now they got to deal with dad. But mom's much better at the everyday management. They're really good managers, whereas the men are better executives usually, on
Well,
average. I
we're
would say
we're
that's
the
fair.
infrastructure builders. I mean, that's what we're good at.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, no, there's a lot of this kind of stuff, and the West has become very messed up in that regard because you should be partners facing the world together. You're a team,
correct.
and that's the whole point. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing arrangements, and that's not healthy. It's not. And
Well, the
and
other
and
thing
and
is,
Ben, I wouldn't piss your wife off. Are you freaking suicidal?
the other thing is, a lot of people, men and women, they take their vows at their wedding ceremony, and they do it ceremonially. When you shouldn't. You should take them very literally. You are supposed to be taking a sacred vow, whether you believe in God or not, to your people,
Well,
to your
personal
family and
integrity
friends.
is enough, shouldn't it be?
Yeah, everybody in front of you that you supposedly value enough to invite to such an event, you're supposed to keep your word for them. And part of those vows, at least pretty much every vows I've ever seen, my own included, include vows of poverty and sickness and in health for richer or
Right,
poor.
right. Because you're gonna have good and bad. That's just the reality of life.
Yeah.
That's true. And it's also things like, when I'm being stupid, my wife tells me so. Thank
Yep.
God she does, and I do the same, and then
Copy.
she throws knives at me. But no, she doesn't. But that's kind of part of it. It's looking out for each other. You're looking out
Yep.
for each other, to not only for each one's success going in the future, but also because you love them. For fuck's sake,
That's right.
you don't
That's what
want
love
bad
is.
things to happen to them, right? My
Yep.
I know I do this all the time, and she does as well. When she's out shopping for something and she sees some, oh, he my husband would like that. She's thinking about me as I think about her because she's my partner. And I
That's
don't understand all of this noise I'm hearing coming out of the West. And if it were like just, 5% or something like that, I wouldn't care. But we're looking upwards of 40+% of this kind of attitude is going on in the West. And that is wow, dude. That is wow. As a man,
Well,
you're literally looking at a 50-50 shot of
yeah,
success. That's not good, dude.
and a crazy woman. The good news is, Chester, these sorts of things happen occasionally. There'll be weird social phenomena that happen like that. The reality is, though, nature corrects, and I think it's already correcting. I've
Oh,
been
of course.
watching. If you go around on social media, you'll find there is a whole lot of young men, successful young men, like actual entrepreneurs who have made a lot of money, and they are out here trying to guide other young men, and there's other older men as well, but they're trying to guide these men into being men at a young age. Like one of them, there's ones that
Yeah.
are like 20 years old, multimillionaires. They got crazy work ethic. You can see it. They put out the videos talking about discipline, discipline yourself, and how to do it, what to do, just follow these steps, like just trying to guide young men because there's a serious problem in the West with a lack of fathering. Not even
Yeah,
just fathers not being in the home,
yeah.
even if they're not in the home or if they are in the home, they're not being fathers. They're not
Or they're not
raising
allowed
men.
to. They're not allowed
Yeah.
to. Yeah. And yeah, no, we talked about how MGTOW was going in a very healthy direction. It
Yep.
was super cringy a few years ago, for sure.
Yep.
But it's definitely heading more toward, dude, take care of yourself, make yourself a better person. Which you know how
That's right.
interesting that is, because if you go back and study the origins of feminism, modern feminism, it's exactly what they were doing. They were not talking to men at all. They were saying, women, all you do is sit in the house and be a mother. You don't know anything about politics. You know nothing about economics. You know nothing. Make yourself better. That's what original feminism was. It didn't involve men at all. It had nothing to do with men. It was about encouraging women to be better. And then, of course, we're seeing a reversal here with this MGTOW. And I have a feeling that they'll probably end up changing their name eventually because they're no longer just men going their own way. It's about men improving themselves to become men,
It
and
kind
that's
of
very
already has.
healthy. Yeah,
It kind of already has. There's like differing names for it and stuff now, but the ones that are healthy and successful that I'm seeing out here from, like I said, these younger guys, and Ben mentioned Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is the dark version of this that I'm talking
he's
about
just
because he does
angry.
try to.
He's not
Yes,
wrong. He's just angry.
he's
And
trying to motivate young men to do better, but he does have a dark side to some of the stuff he says. I totally agree.
yeah, no, I do
But
too. But I think he's frustrated, and
yeah,
therefore some of the things isn't as accurate as he probably believes. But to
but
give a juxtaposition to Tate, just give me 1 second with this.
go
I
ahead.
saw just yesterday, or the day before, a Twitter or a TikTok that became a little viral. You had a 24/7 Latino, first generation Latino boy. And he's 24. He's got himself to a point where he's an owner operator truck driver. Wow. Right.
Mhm.
And he was responding. It's one of those TikTok response where this girl had seen a truck driver head to Trump 2024, and she was like, how disgusting, and being a silly little vapid girl. And he responded, is like, I don't really care one way or the other about Trump or whatever you think about him, but the simple fact of the matter is we made more money under Trump.
Yeah.
And he went on this little very soft spoken rant about how silly young people are and how you really need to just get out there, work hard, and make something for yourself. And I was like, I clapped. I was like, you go, boy, because
Yeah.
that's exactly what you should be doing at 24
Yeah.
years old, right?
And you know what's crazy is Grimlock and my generation, we were kind of abandoned in this particular field. Not necessarily by our dads or whatever, just in general. Like there wasn't this big movement that seems to be growing online right now of of making men. That's the objective, is to rear men. Not even like not about misogyny or sex or any of
No,
that
no, no,
nonsense.
no, no.
Just strong, disciplined men who
Yep.
focus on improving themselves, focus on improving their own personal health and wealth, and then the idea is eventually most of them will say it's because they want to be good fathers. A
Yep.
lot of them because they
And
didn't have good fathers and they
that's right.
want to be the change that they want to see in the world. This is a positive movement is what I'm saying. And
Right.
yes,
And
guys like Andrew Tate blew up and he was everywhere and everything, but the reason he blew up is because there's a craving for men to tell other young men to get off their ass and get to work.
right,
These
and
young
there's a
men
lot
want
of
that.
truth in what he said too, right?
Yeah.
But that's why you and I are saying that it's become much more healthy, because if you go listen to him now, they don't mention women at all.
No.
They're not talking about women at all. Now there's
Nope.
few that will show the kind of toxic nature of women that sure, but that's just clickbait YouTube stuff. But in general, they're not talking about women. They're talking about how you can make yourself professional and capable and disciplined and become the best you. And that's a
Yep.
good thing. That's wonderful.
Yep.
And to be fair, the women need to be doing the same thing. They really do.
Yeah.
And we don't have that kind of movement that has any kind of authority yet, because women really need to step up and start training these women to be proper women because they're not. They're little girls. And the original origins of MGTOW are little boys, right? That's
Yes.
exactly what it is. It's little kids who are frustrated and they don't have any maturity. But and it's interesting that MGTOW has matured into this thing that isn't about women at all anymore,
Yep.
as it should be, right?
Which is the right direction, like we said. It's
Yeah,
super, like, if I can use an internet term, it's super white pilling. It gives me a
it's
lot of hope
dude, I've lost
because
count of the colors. I don't know.
so I'll give you a quick rundown. You ready? Red is the truth. Blue is the deception. Uh, Black is despair, and white is hope.
Oh,
So white is
okay.
it's super white pilling. It makes me I said for years, and people used to mock me because they see a bunch of Generation Z people in their weirdo, some kind of unicorn gender nonsense, all that stuff, right? That's the stuff that gets pushed out. But underneath of them, there's about a 30% group, which is much larger than millennials, that are ultra fiscally responsible people, like more so than the millennials were, more so than your generation, more so all the way back to the greatest generation. These people have this crazy built-in drive to succeed, these young people. And you're seeing that. So I bet you that 24-year-old you're talking about was one of these if you put
Oh,
him on the chart.
yeah,
Um,
and
the,
it was impressive to hear him speak that way. Yeah.
and I keep saying that group is coming, and if they're young
Good.
and they're already this way, imagine what they're going to be like in their 30s and 40s. These
Well,
people are
they'll
going to
make good
change the
fathers.
world.
They'll make good
Yes.
fathers, yeah. So what you're
Yes.
telling me is Ben is black and blue, and I'm red and white. Okay, I got it.
I will say this: Ben does seem to be more black pilled than I am, which is saying something. Which is saying something.
I just the color things. But anyway, we're kind of it's fun conversation, but we are kind of getting past it. I do need to get on with my day. But anyway, that was fun. I enjoyed following along with a Valiant history, and next week we're going to finish it up, and it's a sad ending, really. But it is what it is. And we had some really weird, wacky stories today, man. Naked 6-year-old art comic book artists and Goofy Doofuses playing Sam Beckett. I don't know. Well, it's not playing Sam Beckett, but basically. So whatever. And Ben agrees. Super black pilled, super black pilled. But yet he also at the same time says that he purposely pisses off his wife, for reasons.
For reasons.
So I don't know. It's weird,
Hey,
Ben.
hey, he likes leather and whips. That's all I know.
Oh,
That's all I'm
oh,
saying.
okay. All right, fine. But anyway, awesome. Thank you guys very much. Tomorrow we will be doing Bugbear's Basement, but if that's your thing, we will be, of course, continuing in Imperious, as far as I know. And so come back for that. Other than that, Grimlock, would you like to give a closing statement, sir?
Oh no, everybody have a good one. Hope they enjoyed their holiday weekend. For those who have a Labor Day to celebrate, and see y'all on the flip side.
There you go. Yeah, today was Labor Day. All right, Thundero, take us out of here, man.
So we were talking about marriage. I'm going to do my one on marriage. I think it's good. It's not about love. It's not about trust. Marriage is really about three things at the end of the day. It's about discipline. It's about commitment. It's about helping one another. Be a help, not a hindrance. A hindrance. Lift up, not pull down. And when you do those three, when you stay true and vigilant, when you elevate instead of devastate, then you grow love and then you grow trust. Love
Hmm?
and trust are not what holds a marriage together. They are the harvest of matrimony, not the seed. You cannot reap before you have sown. Stop trying to.
Hmm. Namaste. Very truthful. Later, everybody.